whole channel. What are you drinking there? Water? Sorry, I can't hear you. Did you mute yourself?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that was the
Okay.
problem. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah, I
just
can
water.
hear you. So yeah, my name's Graham. You want to introduce yourself to anyone that might watch this back? We don't have anyone in here yet, but
Um, sure. I'm Holden. Study economics, and that's what I do generally in theory. So most of what I do is in theory, but
nice. I'm from Southwest Florida myself. Do you want to tell me what school you go to, or do you want to keep it private off the camera?
sure. Yeah, I go to Santa Fe College. I live here in Gainesville, Florida. Um,
Nice.
I don't know if you're close to Gainesville, but um, yeah, that's
No,
where I'm at.
I'm from Fort Myers, but yeah,
Okay,
I don't know if you know where that is, but it's completely
it's south,
opposite. Yeah,
right?
I never heard of that school before, but probably because it's up in the north of Florida.
Yeah.
But we can talk about whatever you want. I mean, I prefer to start with it about some immigration, and then we can work into some economic stuff, and we can talk about Maganomics, as you call it. I wouldn't really call it that, but that's a funny name. At first, I thought you were like a pro-Trump guy. I thought you were saying like stuff like good stuff about it, but I couldn't really focus in on your comments. The other guy was saying some pretty crazy stuff. That's why I was pretty entertained just sitting there in the voice chat, and I was also eating my food, and then I got this ready. So sorry it took a second, but
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know, man. A lot of Democrats out there, they don't really even believe in open borders. Like like I argue a lot of it's much easier to debate with people when they believe in full on open borders because I know the
Mhm.
police aren't perfect. The immigration police are not perfect, but
Mhm.
it's kind of hard for me to point out instances of where they've done things wrong. And if people do make mistakes, I'm not afraid to say that they did this wrong or they did that wrong. But
Mhm.
for the most part, I haven't really seen too much of that. But we can start with you by just telling your stance on like the border and like how would like you would do completely open borders, no wall, no checkpoint, no nothing.
Yeah. So, basically, I guess firstly, I would say like most of what I talk about is economics. Generally, I don't debate or really talk about borders very much. But I guess I'll share if you want to talk about it. I guess basically, I think that all property should be privately owned because I don't really think there is anything truly that exists that's you could say is collectively owned property. It's essentially an oxymoron because property it gives the owner the exclusive control over an economic good. So I basically want all property to be privately owned, and if people want to be able to invite people onto into their property, into their restaurants, etc., they should be able to do that without the government saying yes or no. This is okay or not okay.
Well,
This is
in that kind of sense, I would agree that there is no really, public property. I mean, public property in Florida is owned by the state of Florida. Florida parks are owned by the government of Florida, and anyone that's coming to Florida can go there. There's specific rules, just like in private property. There's specific rules, yada yada. I get what you're saying about letting people onto your property if you want to. In most circumstances, they can do that, but that's a little bit different than just immigrants coming into the country however they want. Like, when the borders open, you don't have to necessarily get an invite to someone's private property. They can just come and go as they please. And they might come into your private property on accident. I mean, I had that fella on there that said he would house illegal immigrants himself, but he said, I
Mhm.
don't want to advertise it, but he wants us to advertise it as a country, which I
Mm.
think is kind of ridiculous. But so you wouldn't put any border, no checkpoints, no nothing. People can just come right through Mexico, right into the country.
I think that the if the government's going to exist, then there should be checks for national security and infectious disease and or
So there
criminals,
should be
etc.
borders then. How are we going to check for that stuff without a border?
Well, once again, it's going to be privately owned property. So the only way that this would come to be is if something was reported, and the role of
So
the
people
government.
can come in as they want, but nope, there's not going to be any checks for disease or background checks unless someone reports it.
Yes.
So anyone can basically, you're saying you would let criminals, murderers, rapists, anyone like that come into the country, and as long as they did their time in prison, or as long as they As long as they didn't get reported for their crimes in prison, you'd let them into the country without a background check, even if they were like hurting women and children and raping people and all kinds of crazy stuff. As long as they, even if they didn't do their time in prison, maybe they're on the
Mm.
run, or maybe something like this, you would still let them into the country as long as someone doesn't report it. It's fine. That's what you thought. That's what your thoughts are.
So basically, whatever system you have, it's kind of a loaded question because it contains an assumption. So, like
It's
whatever
not an
system.
assumption, it's a fact. We already have criminals coming into the country, so that would be openly welcoming people that have criminal backgrounds and saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. We're not going to check you. We don't have to do anything like that. You can just go ahead and go through as long as you don't ask. As long as no one reports you, it's all good to go. You don't have to worry about anything like that." And I mean, it's not an assumption because we already have criminals and rapists and murderers that are illegal immigrants that have been found in this country, and they
Well,
have not had background checks, and they've entered illegally.
mm. Yeah, so the assumption is that there's going to be criminals, which is true, but this is true of any system. So whatever system you have, it's virtually going to be the case that there's going to be a criminal that crosses your border. It's going to be you're going to have to use a lot of resources, and you'd have to have an extreme effort to stop. You basically have to have no immigrants come in. That would
Do you
guarantee that you
recognize
don't.
that there has been, virtually zero immigrants? I mean, I know some will sneak in here and there, but do you recognize that the total amount of illegal criminals entering the country has gone significantly down under Trump versus Biden? Or are you just like ignoring
Yeah.
that? Or what are your thoughts about that?
I'm aware of it. I don't pay attention to most of the stuff like that, but I actually am
It's not
aware
going
of
to be a
that.
perfect system. I get
Um,
what you're saying. Every system's
yeah.
going to have people sneaking in. I mean, you can't avoid that, but you can make the number virtually zero or close to zero as possible. And wouldn't that benefit the society as a whole? I know that you can
Um,
make the argument that immigrants are, less crime, this and that. We don't really have accurate federal statistics about legal immigrants' crime and such not because a
yeah.
lot of sanctuary cities will not prosecute them. My friend Chris, you saw him in the voice chat. He's a criminal defense attorney, and he
Mm,
said that he's seen firsthand judges turn down prosecuting illegal immigrants because if they get prosecuted for a crime, that means they're going to get deported.
mm. Yeah, right. Which is a reason why most of them or they try to avoid crimes. Like the Cato Institute has published stuff on this, and both legal and illegal immigrants they've been collecting data for 150 years, and obviously there's going to be
I'm not
flaws in
sure about
the way
them,
that
but
it's collected. But the Cato Institute has found that both legal and illegal immigrants commit crimes at lower rates, violent crimes at lower rates than U.S. citizens do. So
yeah,
the
it's
way
not
that
really the point I'm arguing. But the point I'm mostly saying is if we have open borders, then anyone can come in, like
Mm,
criminals, rapists, murderers. You're okay with that because I've moved to other countries before. I'm from Florida originally, but I've lived in Europe and
mm,
I've lived in other countries before. And when I went there, they made me,
mm,
get a background check from the FBI, apostille it, bring
mm,
it into show the government from the USA, from the FBI, bring it with me. You don't think they should have to do the same thing that every other country where you go to immigrate there, you have to show your background check from your local government and have it apostilled and sealed and stuff like that? You think they should just be able to come in, even though you admit that criminals will come in probably at higher
mm,
numbers? Would you agree that they would come in at higher numbers if you didn't have to get a background checks at the border
mm,
or any kind of other things? I mean, we don't really
mhm,
have that. You're supposed to either seek asylum at the border or you're supposed to go through a process where you show the government your background check.
mm. Yeah, no, I think you're right. That you're gonna have more crime than you otherwise would have. You're gonna have more criminals in your country than you otherwise would have. But I think it shouldn't be the goal to have as little crime as possible as a complete end. I'll explain what I mean by that. So if we wanted to have zero crime, then we would just kill everyone. We would have no crime. We live in a society with
There's a
zero.
lot of good citizens. We don't need to harm innocent citizens or
I,
unalive
I
people
agree.
because it's kind of
Obviously,
ridiculous.
yeah, obviously that's the why I'm saying it is because it would be very ridiculous for the logical endpoint of the argument saying that we should stop crime at all costs would be that we should just have a society with no people because that would guarantee that we had no crime. So
There's
if
lots
you
of great
invite,
people. The majority of people aren't committing violent, atrocious crimes.
I agree. But
So
immigrants are
why would we need
actually
to
committing them
outlaw
at.
all humans and get rid of the human race? That's like a nihilistic perspective.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's a nihilistic perspective, and I honestly think that the way that
But
the
we've
way
seen
that
countries statistically like Poland that has zero terrorist attacks and zero, virtually, very, very low crime statistics. We've seen countries like Poland that has zero terrorist attacks yearly. And that's because they have closed borders. They shoot to kill people that try to jump over their border. We've seen that.
doesn't
We've
doesn't
seen that.
Poland
Hmm?
has they just don't take Muslims. I thought they take
No, they don't take
Europeans.
anybody. I mean, you
I
can't
thought they
jump over their border.
I thought they take Europeans.
I mean, there's a legal way to go through the process, but it's very difficult. But you can't jump over the border. If you jump over the border, they shoot you in the back of the head, and you die.
Okay.
And their crime is much lower, and they're overall much safer country. They have, some of the strictest border laws in the whole entire world, and they have one of the safest societies. You can walk down in any major city at 2 or 3 in the morning, and nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to get harassed. People aren't going to hurt you. You don't have all these bullshit
Hmm.
problems that a lot of major border cities in America have. Like, we see this how it works in other systems. It's not like we're just like guessing, oh, if we deport illegal immigrants and don't let criminals into the country, that this or that. We statistically see it through how other countries run their border system. I mean, it's not like some guessing game. It's not like if we want to make it safer, we just remove human life or anything like that of innocent people.
Yeah. I guess like I don't know the specifics of Poland, so I can't really.
I mean, it's just not even Poland. It's just
The
any kind of country that
the
has strong
yeah.
borders.
So I guess like what you're just pointing out an empirical correlation. If you're I guess like in order to like prove whether or not this is true, you would need theory. Um, and basically I mean, there's been plenty of safe countries that had very lax immigration laws, and
Can you name
vice
one of
versa.
them? Because I can
Sure,
name a
in
bunch of.
the United States, uh, throughout the late 20th century, had virtual open borders.
It's
Or
never had
basically,
virtual open borders. I've done extensive research on this.
in the
The
19th
United
century.
States never had open borders. The only thing they had was a few extra programs for Mexican workers back in the 1960s to come into America and things like this. But there's never been an open border policy. There's
Uh,
never been a system. There's never once been a system where you didn't have to have background checks, basically.
so
Even when
um,
people came in the 1890s from Ellis Island in New York, they would still have to provide their paperwork, their documentation. They would have to wait a few days. Sometimes people waited a year.
so yeah, I guess like what I said, virtual open borders. I guess like can you so like during the 19th century, the United States had very lax immigration laws. Like you acknowledge that, right? Like
Yeah,
we
but
had.
I mean, lax. I don't know what you mean by lax. They just had more immigration programs and more, and there was a lot less people trying to immigrate as well. It was a different time in general,
We
but
had a
they did
huge
have
amount of
more.
immigration.
Sorry.
Huge. I said we had a huge amount of immigration in the 19th century.
We've had,
Huge amount.
I mean, yeah,
Like as a
like I just
percentage of the
stated, they had
population.
background checks. They had people coming in from Ellis Island. They'd have to wait for all their paperwork to get processed. I mean, specifically around from 1880 to around
Mhm.
1920, 1930, it wasn't relaxed. You still had to do all the same stuff you have to do today. It was a quicker immigration process, perhaps, but it wasn't relaxed in any manner. It was virtually all the same stuff that we're doing now. It just there was a lot less people. There wasn't like 20, 30 million immigrants coming in. Like, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers. I can just ask ChatGPT or look it up. But even if there was, I mean, the overall population was a lot less, and people were getting background checks. People were getting checked, and it's a lot different from the day. I mean, I think a lot more immigrants are coming in today, but I would have to,
Um,
research that to back it up. But I have my
yeah,
computer in front of me.
yeah, sure. Yeah, data would be good on this because, but I guess like as a percentage of the population, especially like okay, prior to the Civil War, for sure, I could say off the top of my head, there were millions of Irish immigrants that came into the United States. As a percentage of the population, it was a huge amount of people. And then like in the late 19th century, as a percentage of the population, I think that was the period of some of the largest
Once again, they're coming in legally.
immigration to the United States. So basically, yeah, as a percentage of the population, we've done very much more. We've had many more immigrants than what we've had recently, as far as I know. unless you could show anything that disputes that.
Either way, there was a process. If you want me to talk about the process, we can. Okay, first off, they had to come into by boat, Ellis Island, Angel Island. Process involved health inspections, legal questioning, just like it does today. And they had immigration questions. They had their paperwork. They had to do all the same stuff. I mean, it's just they had it wasn't so flooded. But I don't really know about the numbers statistically. But either way, you admit that open borders will bring more criminals into the country. So how can you how can you proudly support that?
Because it's called a cost benefit analysis. If you only pay attention to the bad things, then almost anything is not worth doing. The
Well,
reason
considering
why
70% of the taxes are paid by people that make over $200,000 a year, and considering people that pay, $1,000 to $5,000 in taxes a year, most of these illegal immigrants are taking up more welfare programs. That's a great cost benefit analysis
um
because most of them are taking
okay.
more cost of our infrastructure and social programs than they are contributing to into our taxes. I mean, we already got 70% of the country's taxes are paid by people that make well into the six figures. So you're telling me people that can't even afford housing or basic necessities would not be a burden on our tax system?
So actually, I challenge you on where you're getting your data from, because the Cato Institute has published studies that immigrants contribute more into taxes than they take out in benefits. Now, it depends on which
How is
group
that
you get.
so? And who the
So
hell is the Cato Institute?
I'll explain. I'll explain why. So the biggest or one of the biggest costs that people have is education. So and there's a good book on this called "The Case for Open Borders." It's a book by Brian Kaplan. Basically, he goes in there. He talks about how huge expense is education. So it literally costs like over $10,000, like per average per kid or something like that. It's a huge expense, and then over per year. So
For
it's
care
like
for an American or for who specifically?
for just like anybody who goes to the education system, right? So these immigrants are coming in after they've gotten educated, so they go straight to work. So particularly the educated immigrants that come in their working years pay enormously into taxes,
People
enormously.
that make
Also,
the average salary in America aren't even paying 10,000 a year in income taxes. So if one of their children takes $10,000 a year for the educational system, that numbers just don't add up. And I would also like to talk about Cato Institute. I just
well,
did some research on them, and there is a bit of
uh,
inherent bias. First off, they were founded in San Francisco, California, which is an extreme left-wing city, and also they're specifically an organization that promotes quote unquote core American principles and individual freedoms and limited government intervention and unregulated trade and global harmony, which basically tells you right there that they're promoting illegal immigration and open borders as well. I mean, it doesn't really say anything about it's an educational yada yada yada. And this is just the description I'm reading
mm,
that shows on Google, but that's a little
okay.
bit of an inherent bias. And also, just using my common sense and using the numbers that you're saying that it takes $10,000 a year for a kid to be go to school in the
More
free
than
educational system. Sorry.
more than ten
More
thousand
than.
dollars
Okay,
per
so the
per year.
majority of Americans say you're making the average salary, which is around, 40,000, 50,000 a year. Of course, it depends where you live in the US. The average in
Yeah, I think it's
California is
68, or no, it's I think it's like that average salary is something, it's like something like 70,000 right now.
I can quote you on that, but here, let me do a quick Google search.
Yeah, do
What
a
should we look up?
Google
US
search. Average.
GDP or average income?
So GDP is about 30 trillion,
Per
which is going to be
capita, of
different.
course, I meant.
Per capita is going to be 82,000,
That's
roughly.
not right either, but I can challenge you on that. But average USA average salary.
Look up USA GDP per capita. It's
I'll
about
look that up next.
82,000.
Well, it says the United States Census Bureau estimates that the median salary per workers, people age 15 and over with earnings, is around 47,960.
What group is that?
It is anyone over the age of 15 that's working a full-time job.
Okay, got you.
But if you want to talk about the
You said
GDP per
it's
capita, it's higher.
47,000.
Yeah,
What year is that from?
that's 2022.
Okay.
So we can say it's 50,000 now or 52,000 now if you like. But even if they are, making 60 grand a year, they're still not paying 10 grand a year in taxes unless you count every little single
Yeah,
tax
generally
filing.
so, yes. And
Okay,
of
you were
course,
right
I
about the
wasn't.
GDP per capita. It is $85,000 a
Yeah,
year.
right, right. So, okay, cool. Yeah, it makes sense. So I guess like, yeah, but I mean, immigrants. So on a cost benefit, I wasn't really done talking about the immigrant part, especially high skill immigrants.
CRX
Are
Joe, if you sent a super chat, I guess it didn't work. You'd have to try again. But smash that like button, subscribe. Any comments, questions, drop some super chats. Continue. Sorry.
Someone also commented, neither of you know what GDP is. Okay, GDP is consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports minus net imports. So yes, I know what that is. Also, anyway, so we could go into why is it that I am in or why is it that I think on a cost benefit analysis standpoint, immigration it's not just a good thing, it's an amazing thing. Um, the reason why I think that, well, firstly, I think
High
that
skill immigrants don't run across the border either. I'm sorry to just bring up that comment, but they don't need to because any country will happily welcome them in through a visa program. So, there's not really many high skilled illegal. There's none that I've really ever seen high skilled immigrants crossing the border. Most of these people are, working on agriculture, farming, and stuff like that because there's lots of work visas that they can apply for. But
okay,
continue.
sure. So I guess the one of the reasons why I'm very pro immigration. There's plenty of people, by the way, who
I'm pro
would
immigration too, pro legal
so
immigration. So I guess
okay.
we're on the same
So
thing
would
here.
you? So all right. Before I actually get into this, are you cool with 20 million people coming into the United States legally?
Not illegally.
I'm saying
Legally?
legally.
Are you
Yeah.
trying to say that I would like to what's the word for it? Let them all stay legally and give them a not a pardon, but what's the word that they use out there now? When
Uh.
they said when they would said they would let all these illegal immigrants stay. Maybe
Um.
someone in the comments can tell
Yeah.
us.
I don't know what you're referring to.
But yeah, like turning all the illegal immigrants into legal citizens.
Give them citizenship, I guess. Yeah.
There's another word that they use. I'm waiting
Um.
for someone in the comment to say. But yeah, would I be okay with that if that's the question? No, I'm not okay with giving people that broke no, maybe asylum. I'm not okay with giving, a pardon, amnesty. There we go, amnesty. I'm not okay with giving
Oh
20
yeah.
million illegal immigrants amnesty if that's your question.
Okay. So I wasn't about illegal immigrants. It was about just like legal immigrants in general. Would you be okay? So like so right now there's over 100 million people who want to come to the United States in the world, right? A lot of those people are very well educated,
Probably
high.
more than that. Hello,
Um,
Ice.
yeah, I said over 100 million people in the world um, that want to come to the United States. That a lot of those people are relatively um, well educated and the like. Okay, would you be okay with 50 million of those people coming to the United States legally?
Well, if you said there's over 100 million, why wouldn't you be asking over 100 million? And
But we'll just start with 50
no, I'm
million.
not going to say I would be because I don't know these people's criminal background.
Assuming that we check them, assuming that you check them for national security, criminal, for being or
So
infectious
you're telling me if these people were
diseases.
not criminals, they were educated, they meet all the requirements, they're educated, they have no criminal background,
Uh,
all at once? I mean, probably not because they have to meet all these
I'm
requirements
saying
and
like,
whatnot.
yeah, it wouldn't be all at once, right? It'd be like, let's say like over a period of let's say over a period of 8 years. So you'd have a few million coming
I have no
per annum.
problem with anyone coming legally into the country as long as they, meet into all the criteria. It doesn't really
Okay,
matter about a
cool. So
specific number,
you
but
would be fine with that?
if there starts to be a problem where there's a problem with a specific group, or if they have any ties to gang activity, like there are criminal people that have never been charged with things like that. So you'd really have to I don't believe it's a God given right to come into the United States because there is no
Uh,
country unless you're born into it that gives you a God given right to live there.
so yeah,
The Great
okay.
Replacement is real. They would love to replace you know
Okay,
people.
so yeah, I guess I could press on that, but I was trying to get to my point earlier. I just wanted to ask that
Sorry, continue.
before I got to it, which was so basically I actually wrote a paper about this. There's an economist who uh, who his name is Michael. His name is Michael Clemens, and there's plenty of other economists that have done research on this. But Michael Clemens is one of them. You could also read I mentioned Brian Kaplan's book. Um, it, Open borders. If you open up the borders in the United States and just across the world GDP, global GDP would rise by 50 by the most conservative assumptions 50%.
How would it
So
rise when these people are not educated, skilled workers? Most people that are coming into the country illegally are not skilled workers. Most people in general aren't skilled
okay,
workers.
I'll explain why. You want me to?
Sure.
I can very okay. So one the so do you know what the most
Wait,
what
GDP per capita or overall GDP?
That's well, it would be both GDP. Well, it'd be GDP and GDP per capita would both rise because you're not changing the amount of people on the planet. You're just shifting them to more productive locations. I'll explain to you why it's the case that okay. So like, do you know what separates like a poor economy from a rich economy, by chance?
Educated, skilled workers, people that are motivated, that people that actually want to better their life.
Okay, so I could have all the motivation I want. I could be the most educated person. I have 160 IQ, all this stuff, right? If I don't have capital goods at my disposal, then I just use my hands and labor, and land, right? So I just use
We
my
live
own
in
labor and land.
2025. You don't need to use your
Um,
hands or labor. You can open a business. You can
okay,
sell
yeah.
products that you don't physically have yet. So you
So
don't need
it doesn't seem
capital
like you're really getting the
goods.
point of what I'm saying.
This isn't
So
1960s. You don't need
right.
capital goods to
So
make money.
wait, you don't need capital goods to make money?
I mean, you need a phone and you need a computer. Is that a capital good?
I don't even. Yeah, I mean, yes, those are capital goods if they're used for the production of other goods. Um,
No, I mean, I
but
guess you're producing stuff. You can produce content. You can produce marketing and sales of
so
products and whatnot.
yeah, so let me just explain to you what capital goods are because it doesn't. So capital goods are what we call produced means of production. Okay, so it takes land and labor to produce a capital good, and capital goods raise the productivity of labor, and they make the economy more productive. So what separates a poor economy from a rich economy is that a rich economy has a large stock of capital per person. Okay, and a poor economy, they don't have very many tools and machines. So for example, in the United States, we have these giant agricultural machines that massively increase the productivity of labor. It's
So you're basically
incomprehensible.
saying the infrastructure is
um,
what brings people money.
so so ultimately what I'm saying is, all right, so what I'm getting to is that what separates a rich country from a poor country is the capital stock per person. Now, um, if you go over to a rich country, then you make the immigrants typically make when they come to the United States 5 to 10 times more money here than they did in their home countries. Now, do you know what determines a wage by chance? So like, why is it that they're making so much more money?
Because their countries pay less salaries than our countries. I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
pretty
but
much
why?
that simple.
That's a truism.
Because
You
their
got to explain
countries
why.
have, a poorer economy. Their countries have a lower cost of goods, lower cost of living. Like $500 a month goes a lot farther than it does in the United
Okay.
States.
So I'll
And also their
explain.
overall economy, and like you said, the infrastructure. They don't have that many
Mhm.
goods and such to sell.
Yeah, so basically, you kind of got on it at the end, but wages are determined by what we say the marginal value product of labor. Okay, so basically, a worker produces something, and there's like this output that it generates, and whenever you have more capital, you can produce more output per unit of input. So, like you were saying in the last part, you have better infrastructure, you have more sophisticated capital goods, you can produce more output per unit of input. So when these immigrants come over to the United States with better tools and machines, they can produce more output per unit of input. So that raises their productivity of labor, and therefore they earn higher wages here in the United States than they do in their home countries. So what's happening is that there's a bunch of people in the world that are very highly capable of using machines that are much more productive and much more advanced economies that could be producing a lot of stuff. We're leaving so many goods and services off the table because people are trapped in poor economies that don't have a lot of capital goods. Okay, so if they were to come to America, They would have very sophisticated capital goods, and their productivity would raise 5 to 10 fold if they came here. So
I don't think
basically,
their productivity would raise at all. I think if they're working hard in their country, they come here, they're going to be working just as hard, and I don't think that changes ever. I know plenty of
so
immigrants. They literally work the same as they would work in their
so
country because
working
they're already
just as
working
hard,
hard. And
working.
also, we're giving them our assets and our factories. Just because we give them that stuff isn't the reason that they're making more money. I mean, look at China, look at these other countries that have, infrastructure. People are not necessarily making more money. And third off, we have American citizens that should be um, priority before we, put anyone ahead of them.
Okay, so like, I guess, yeah. So you say that the first thing you said. What was the first thing you said again? So I don't want to like mischaracterize you.
You can, whatever you think, I'll correct you if it's wrong.
Okay.
But if you guys
So
have any comments, questions, we got almost 400 people in here. Double tap that screen, get the likes up, drop some super chats if you guys have any comments, questions, anything you want us to talk about. Let's see what else we're in here. Okay, continue.
okay. So basically, you're going off of the view that they work just as hard in the United States as they do in their home countries, right? Um, and look, I don't deny that. I would actually say they probably work even harder in their home countries, but effort and bronze don't determine how productive you are per se. Like what's going to determine how productive you are is it's other factors that are
What, the
also going
money
to
they're
contribute to
making or
that.
what?
It's going to it's ultimately going to depend on your productivity. There's a general tendency in a market economy for wages to be paid at the marginal value product, like I said. So basically,
So since you're saying there's more profits to be made, but there's also more expenses in the U.S. There's more profits, but there's more expenses, and also they might be making more money here, but they also have higher expenses. And second off, I'm still bewildered on the fact that you said like it's okay for criminals to come into the United States because we already got a bunch of criminal citizens and a bunch of illegal criminals coming in here.
that's
Like,
not the
I
reasoning
just
I
don't
gave.
understand how we can have open borders. I mean, like, I don't understand how someone can like just say it's okay if the crime rate goes up. We can just let them in. Like, that's
So
logically that
yeah.
doesn't make much sense to me. I'm just
So
still confused on that.
the rate of crime, the rate of crime per person would actually go down, based on the track record that we have, which is that immigrants commit
Well, the
crimes at
federal
lower
government doesn't
rates.
have statistics on this, and second off, we already see that. Well, you've already admitted in your first statement that more criminals would come into the country, more people without background checks if they could legally come into the country. You said that crimes would
Yeah.
rise, and you said the criminality would rise in general. So I don't think you can try to defend that by
So
saying this CAT2 Institute or whatever it's called, says that this institute that believes in having open borders and letting illegal criminals into the country said that they're going to help society. I don't think that's like a statistic that you can quote when you've already like stated that the crime rate's going to go up and more criminals are going to come into this country.
So yeah, I wasn't saying that. So what I was saying is that more crimes will take place, but not per person. So basically, you're gonna have more people in your society. So
So there's going to
you're
be more
gonna.
criminals.
So yes, there will be more criminals.
But
For
without
example,
background checks, there's going to be a higher rate of criminality. We'll basically become the dumping ground of criminal fugitives throughout the world. We'll be like
um,
every criminal will say, "Oh, look, coming to the United States, they don't do background checks." So we'll become the dumping ground for drug lords and criminals and whatnot.
yeah. So I guess the war on drugs is a good way to do that. I want to legalize drugs. Um,
That's
but
another
no.
horrible idea. Look
Um,
at Portland, Oregon. It's a failed shithole.
okay.
There's higher
Um,
crime rates. There's higher drug addicts in the streets. There's people with needles in their arms. Look at LA. They have over 120,000 homeless people in one city, and most of them are drug addicts. They have entire parks filled with 20,000, 30,000 drug addicts and homeless people. I know we don't see that in Florida, but do you want to start seeing that as something? Is that something you would look forward to seeing in Gainesville or anywhere in Florida?
um, once again, this is another loaded question. It's a logical fallacy. Your question
It's
contains an
not a
assumption.
logical fallacy. It's logically proven, as we see that Oregon has basically legalized every single drug. They've decriminalized multiple drugs. They aren't prosecuting people for heroin or fentanyl or any of that shit. And we can see what happened to the entire Portland, Oregon. We can see what happened to Los Angeles. We can see what happened to multiple people places when they don't prosecute for substances. Now, do I think people should be getting 30 years in prison for, personal amounts of drugs? No, I don't think that. But do I think they should be legalized? Absolutely not. Do I think maybe they should just like do other things, put you in rehab instead of putting you in prison for 20 or 30 years? Maybe, but I don't think they should be decriminalized because if we don't criminalize it, then that just encourages criminality. That same thing with the border. If we don't encourage background checks and encourage to let good people in here that are educated that don't have criminal records, then that encourages criminals to come into here. What did this guy say? People are lazy and only works because they have bills. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's like if we give someone a free house. If we gave someone a free house and we paid all their bills, do you think they're going to work harder or work not as hard? What would you think? And I'm not
Oh,
saying all people. Of course, there'll be
yeah,
that one guy that's a hustler and he wants to just keep making money. There's always that.
sure. Yeah, no, you create incentive for someone to not work, very obviously.
So you
I'm a,
agree with that? That's a pretty obvious thing. But
I'm
wouldn't you
against
agree that
I'm
you're
against all
creating
welfare.
incentives for people to try drugs if there's no I mean, we see in society, we can look all around the world. We can compare, like, okay, look at the streets of China versus Portland, Oregon, or Los Angeles. In China, do you see people strung out on drugs and all fucked up in the street? No, because they're gonna get the death penalty. So, I mean, do I think the death penalty is a little bit harsh? Yeah, probably. It's kind of fucked up, but but you don't see any people in the streets with needles hanging out of their arms. In these countries and societies where they give the harshest, possible punishment for drugs, you don't see people fucked up on drugs in the streets. But where do you see people fucked up on the streets and homeless on drugs? Every city in America that decriminalizes drugs or just doesn't prosecute them or go after them.
Yeah, this is another empirical question. I guess there could be many factors causing what you're talking about. I don't really know the specifics of any of these cases. I didn't even know that in Oregon it was. Did they recently make it legal or something to do drugs?
I know mushrooms, marijuana. I mean, like I said, I don't have anything wrong with like people doing what they want to do as long as they're not strung out on the street, as long as they're not screwing up society and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't think Portland really prosecutes. Let me look up Portland. I'll tell you the official status. Maybe I'm wrong about it being, completely. Okay, here, let me look it up. Give me 2 seconds. Let
Mhm.
me look up the news. All right, Andrea. Thank you for that super chat. Um, okay, so no, in 2024, once again, in 2024, drug possession is a crime again in Oregon. So they did decriminalize, I believe, for a short amount of time, but now they criminalized drugs again last year. So
Okay.
but they did in 2020 they basically did decriminalize, but now last year they criminalized drugs again and they're trying to clean up the city a little bit. I didn't hear about this, but I mean there's a reason they tried it. They tried decriminalizing it and they saw what happened to their city. I mean, you can look this up. I have my laptop right in front of me, but you can look this up yourself and take a look at it.
Mhm.
But yeah, they tried to decriminalize it. It didn't have a good effect on their society, and yeah, they had like a huge problem with that. It was
Yeah.
Oregon's. It's Oregon's drug decriminalization experiment. They tried 3 years of decriminalization of drugs, and it failed. After 3 years, they were forced to decriminalize it again. I mean, this is pretty much the stuff that you can expect.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't even bad. I've seen way worse things in person than that before. I mean, you got like hundreds of people that are like that, but that's not
Okay.
even the worst of the worst. You got, all this stuff going on.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really want to make this a drug debate. I
No,
kind of
I
wanted to
mean,
get
I
to.
think you brought that up or something, but
Yeah, I brought it up. I just I brought it up because somehow it was like, I just like was pointing out I'm against this, by the way. I forgot what it was about though, but but yeah, anyway, didn't really mean for it to turn to
like I
this, but
said, you can have a different perspective. You don't need to believe in decriminalization of drugs, but you can believe on like people that have personal amount of drugs should not be getting like 30, 40 years in
Oh
prison. But
no,
at the
like
same time,
I no, like I think
yeah, I
like
don't think it should
all
be
drugs should be
criminalized.
legal. Like I think
I
all
mean, I
drugs
just
should be
gave you
legal.
examples of it, but I don't think that'll change your
Yeah,
mind.
I mean,
You can look more into it yourself.
sure, yeah, like I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I think all of them should be legal because of my property rights theory. Um, but anyway, yeah, if you want to talk about Maganomics, we can. But also, like about the open borders thing, I think it's important to emphasize that we are literally losing out on trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth of goods being created every year, being produced every year
Well, you went back
because
to that
of
thing.
immigration laws.
You still haven't really brought into the point of them, being more of a net positive because the only thing that you've proven is basically that they're not a net positive. You said for their children it's going to be $10,000 a year. You
Okay,
said for their
so
children it's going to be over $10,000 a year in
that's
taxpayer
what I
money.
said
That's
for
not including the
American.
social benefits. That's not including
Yeah.
Section 8 or their Medicare, their Medicaid, their food stamps. That's not even including all of that. And we already know that if you're making the median income in the United States $44,000 a year or whatever it was, $47,000 a year, you're not paying $10,000 a year in taxes. So,
Okay, so what I was saying, if you listen to what I was saying, many immigrants come here at an age when they finished education. So they're already in their working years. That's why a lot of them contribute more to taxes than they consume in benefits.
well,
What
first
I was
off, there's
saying.
still a median income. Like I said before, that doesn't really change the median income unless they're an actual highly skilled worker, which I don't know why a highly skilled worker would come in the country illegally. I mean, that just doesn't make much sense when they can get a work visa or, purchase a property for $1 million and get a
Okay,
visa that way. There's many other ways they can come
yeah.
into the country
I was talking
legally.
about immigrants generally, of course. Like if you're talking about immigrants like single illegal immigrants, then yeah, a lot of them then certainly they're more likely to be low skill immigrants. There's no doubt about that.
So you're talking about the majority of immigrants would come in would be low skilled immigrants. You admit to that, or what are you saying?
Many so like of all the people that want to come to the United States, it's likely a lot of them would be high skill and a lot of them would be low skill. I don't know the percentages. You have a lot of entrepreneurs though. Immigrants are like twice as likely to start companies. 50% of Fortune 500 companies in the United States were founded by at least one immigrant. So they're very entrepreneurial. They create lots of companies here in the United States. For example, like Nvidia,
Yeah, I think
Microsoft.
those are all legal, high skilled immigrants, and I know about that. The CEO of YouTube is from India, yada yada. But before we get into some more of this, we still have a lot to say about this. But I want to read these two super chats.
Sure.
Government should sell drugs to its citizens and use profits to pay off debt. I don't think that, but I do think some of the medicines that they manufacture should be controlled by the government and should be socialized so they can stop making too much profit. But that's another thing.
Wait,
Okay,
who?
next, the government should
But
socialize some of the
socialize what?
medications,
The
some
medication.
and
You
healthcare.
do?
What?
You
Yeah,
think they
sure.
should?
But I
Okay.
don't think it'll ever. I don't think we'll have free insurance ever. But they should lower the prices of some drugs and cap them on how much profits they can make. So that's a little bit of socialism. Human Meta. I know this guy from in here before. Americans deserve job priority. Foreign workers should be allowed if highly skilled. I 100% agree with that. I mean, other than that, I really don't understand. Who's gonna pick our crops? Democrats, 1775. Who's gonna pick our crops? Democrats, 2025. Who's gonna pick our crops? I mean, come on, guys. We're back into the thing. Like, a majority of people in America are unskilled workers. So you think there's no way the majority of the illegal immigrants that come in would be skilled workers. And also, like I said, even if they did, I don't know what the statistics are, but even if they did make the average American salary, you pretty much admitted that there'd be a net loss because they're not going to be paying more than $5,000 or $6,000 a year in taxes if they make the
So,
median American income and
so
wage.
that's not what I said. And also, it's like it's not even funny how much of a gain this is. Like this costs us. This regulation costs us more than any other regulation on the book. There is no more wealth destroying regulation in the entire world than immigration laws. Those are the most
I mean, I don't know
destructive
how
to.
this is creating wealth for American citizens by paying for other people's benefits. since their entire tax year isn't even going to
yeah,
pay for their kids to go to
because
school.
you don't realize that you okay, one, a lot of these people are coming in their working years, as I've established many times. Two, I just explained to you that when they get into an economy that has a lot of capital stock per person, they produce far more stuff, and when they produce that, there's more production of goods, and they exchange those goods, so the society is richer than it otherwise would have been. Absent the immigration, whenever they get into an economy with more capital goods, they produce more stuff. Okay,
So what are
so
they producing stuff for other companies, or what are we
what
talking about?
what people want, just like you produce anything.
Like
If it's
what are we talking about when we say produce? Are they being
uh,
inventors? I mean,
like
these
they're
are
working,
not, believe it or not, these are not doctors and lawyers and scientists that are trying to immigrate into this country. These are unskilled laborers. These are unskilled workers.
there's
And like I
plenty of
said, the majority of people that pay taxes in this country are people making well into the six figures, about 150 to 200,000 a year. Those
sure.
people are paying the majority of the taxes. And people that are making the average median income, a lot of the Americans, I mean, not all of them. Some people like me don't take any government benefits, but a lot of Americans are using up the infrastructure and the tax
Yeah,
system. I mean, of course, everyone uses the roads,
no,
but other than that,
I think we should make it
Americans, a
illegal.
lot of them are already a net loss. So
No,
most Americans are already
I no,
a net loss.
I think we should. Yeah, they are, exactly. This is
So
true.
why should we let
In
more
fact,
unskilled,
um,
uneducated laborers? And also, you're talking about, oh,
okay,
a lot of these people have degrees. Well, if once again, if they're skilled, why didn't they just come in legally? And second
so
off, there's a recent study that came out. Also, there's a recent study that came out talking about people with bachelor's degrees. It says now in 2025, people with bachelor's degrees have the same rate of employment as people without degrees, the same rate of employment and pay. I mean, this is a new study that came out. You can debate that, but once again, even if they were skilled, educated, degreed, you know, illegal immigrants, then why would they come in illegally when they can come through a visa and stay legally and not have to worry about the police or ICE looking over their back?
yeah,
Skills
because
can be trained, but why should we train these people to stay in our country when we have unskilled Americans that need training?
okay, so I'll basically I'll explain why wouldn't they come legally. Why would they come illegally, or why wouldn't they come, or whatever,
Why wouldn't they
basically.
come why would
y-
they come illegally if they're
yeah, you got
skilled?
me all mixed up with this thing.
Why would
So
they come
basically,
illegally if they're
I'll
skilled
explain.
laborers?
I'll explain why. Have you ever known someone by chance, like, who's tried to come here legally? Like,
Yeah, I
do you know?
know, but they weren't skilled workers.
Okay, cool. Do you remember asking them how long it took for them to get through the immigration process?
Yeah, they have to apply for asylum and then they get rejected. But there's work visas that you can apply for and get in 30 to
Yeah,
45 days. It doesn't take years just to get a work visa. It
sure,
doesn't take
but
5 years for a work visa.
so how long does it? So, like, typically, I'm talking about, like, to get citizenship, right?
Well,
Um,
citizenship takes years in any country you go
r-
to. It doesn't matter. But
r-
citizenship should be treated much more seriously. If people want to come here for work or for school, they can do that in, like, a month or two.
so yeah, to get here, to come here as a citizen, it takes a very long time. Like,
To get your citizenship, okay? That's every country.
yeah. But that doesn't necessarily
H-2A
make it.
visas, you can come here in 30 to 45 days with a work permit.
Yeah.
And then
So,
you can
like,
just extend it. And after a certain amount of years, you can get your citizenship.
yeah. So, like I was saying, basically, like, it takes a really long time to do this, and you could say that
30 to
it's like,
45 days for an
no. So
H-2A
that's not
work
what I'm
visa?
talking about.
Well, it
Yeah,
takes
that's not.
long for everywhere. You just want them to come into the country, right? Or are we just going to give American citizenship out to anybody that wants it?
Um. Yeah. So basically, yeah. So it takes a long time to become a citizen. There's plenty of high skill immigrants that want to come to the United States, but
Well, if you're high
it takes a
skilled,
long time.
also I think there is a new visa I believe that Trump made for high skilled workers to get citizenship. I think companies, I mean, it's a ridiculous thing, but if you work for Apple or something and they want you to become a citizen, they can pay like a couple $1 million and you'll become a citizen. And also, if you're a skilled, quote unquote, skilled worker, if you have $1 million, you can get citizenship that way through a property investment. And second off, if not, you can just keep working and get an H-2A visa in 30 to 45 days and come to the country illegally. And H-1B visa as well. I mean, there's all kinds of different work visas that you can get
Yeah, and
work with.
H-1B
So
visas are capped, but anyway, like, and those
I
are
mean, they just
people that are
extended them
educated.
by a couple 100,000.
Yeah, I mean, we should have no cap, of course. Um, but
But why? We
anyway,
have American citizens that we need to take care of first. I mean,
I
we
think,
aren't just the shelter. We aren't just the pool for unskilled laborers in the world to come to. Any
yeah,
company can hire H-2A visas, by the way. So these people can come in, do any job they want within 30 to 45 days.
yeah. I mean, I don't think, I don't think Americans have any special claim on a job or
I mean,
something.
they're American
Um,
citizens. They're natural born legal citizens. They should be
I
priority
don't care.
before illegal. So you don't care if
Uh,
someone was born into the country and they're an American citizen when an Indian guy came here illegally and
well, I mean, I don't care in that. I don't care for when it comes to a job, right? Like, you have no right to a job. It's a relationship between the employer on who he wants to
you have
hire.
no right to this country just because you're an immigrant. You're an illegal immigrant that wants to come here.
But of course, the country is
They
made up
have
of.
no right to a job, but they have American citizens have no right to a job, but illegal immigrants have a right to this country. Do you see how that kind of makes no sense?
They have the right of freedom of movement, just like anybody else should.
And they have the right to
Yeah.
get deported.
So as long as they're on other people's property, of course it makes sense because it's property, right? So America is made up of a bunch of there's a bunch of property in America, a bunch of land in America, and there's a bunch of people who own the land,
I mean,
and they
who do
should be
you
able to
pay
elect.
taxes to if it's really private property? If you
No,
really
of
want to go
course,
down this
yes, the
crazy
government. Of course,
conspiracy
I understand that the government
rabbit hole.
owns land. Obviously, I'm not gonna fight you on that. The government owns land. We agree. Um,
If you want somewhere where you're talking about where you can let illegal immigrants stay, okay, buy your own micronation or buy your island in the middle of nowhere. You can have illegal immigrants there.
yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, sure. I
But
don't
when
think
you're
you're getting.
attached to the state of Florida or you're attached to the United States of America, you're under federal law.
Yeah, I
They create
understand
your
that.
property rights.
Yeah, so basically, where I was getting at is like, of course, like the government should sell all of its land. It shouldn't own any. There shouldn't be any federal land or any public property. But I guess like, but yeah, no. Ultimately, it should be that p- individual property owners, and we're circling back to the start. But ultimately, it should be individual property owners that decide whether or not they want to hire said person or let some said
I
person
mean,
come
this
on
would
their
be a really
property.
good topic to talk with Chris about because he's a criminal defense attorney and he represents landlords and he does evictions and whatnot. So
Mm,
he knows a lot about property and whatnot like that. But he knows more
cool.
about property rights than me or you.
Awesome.
But
Well, I guess like the last thing, like we were saying, is the big immigration restrictions cause are the biggest are the most pernicious regulation of all the regulations. It's the worst regulate. It's the worst of all of
I'm
them.
still struggling
Anyway,
to find the net benefit. If you have admitted that they take up more tax dollars, that they take, if they have children, that they're taking $10,000 plus more per year. That means
you're
each
just not
illegal
getting the
immigrant would
points.
have to make $100,000 a year just to, cover the expenses for the kids to be in school, not
Yeah.
to mention everything else.
So it
And the
doesn't.
majority of Americans don't even make that. So how are illegal, unskilled laborers going to make that
So
much?
for one, you keep saying illegal unskilled labor, but you're throwing it in a You're throwing it in a vacuum because a lot of them are not going to be low skill. Of course, some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. Also,
Majority of them, probably
secondly,
80 to 90% of them, I would say probably as high as 90% of them are unskilled because why wouldn't they just get an H2 visa or why wouldn't they just get the other types of visas, the B1 visa,
but what
and
if
they
they
can
want to
get
become
those
a citizen, like
well then they can wait a couple
Jensen and Kwong?
years. They're
Yes.
not going to
Okay.
become a citizen by coming in illegally.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I guess.
If they want to start
Anyway.
heading towards citizenship, they can stay for I think 10 years in this country. Then they can apply for citizenship. If they keep renewing their work visa every year, okay, after 10 or so years, I believe they can apply for a citizenship. But if you come in here illegally and you're a skilled worker, first off, no Google I don't think is going to hire an illegal immigrant. I don't think Microsoft is going to
You
hire
keep
an
saying
illegal
you
immigrant.
keep saying illegal immigrants. Like we're talking about immigrants in general. Like you keep going back to illegal immigrants. I'm not
Okay,
talking
well,
about illegal immigrants in a
you said you
vacuum.
want to let all the illegal immigrants in, basically. That's why I keep talking about them.
Yeah, okay, like I do, but it's not necessarily what I'm talking about. You're kind of just like you're moving you're moving the discussion in a direction that's it's not really what I'm saying. So, illegal immigrants in general are just like an enormous, or just immigrants in general. Period. Especially those of high skills are incredibly useful for the economy. They provide a huge boost.
Yeah,
And
Elon Musk is an immigrant and he paid the most taxes in history.
Yeah,
So what's the
so
point?
yeah, so basically we're leaving there's literally trillions of dollars worth of goods are not being produced every year because of our because of our immigration regulations. It's just that simple. So anyway, yeah, basically it's not even funny how much this anti-immigrant nonsense costs us. But anyway, yeah, we can talk about the economy now if you want.
Yeah, we can talk about the economy. You still don't seem to be adding the numbers up. We still don't seem to be adding the numbers up in the previous conversation because we talked about all the net negatives, but I'm still failing to realize
Right.
how they pay into the tax system when that's a net positive. But sure, we
Um
can talk about
yeah.
Maganomics. What do you want to talk about? Let's go in
Um
more into your field.
So yeah, I guess basically, well, I guess of course the tariffs are crazy, and also the Intel stake. Basically, MAGA is like this. We basically, like, economists like to think that mercantilism was debunked, like 200 years ago or something. Back when Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of 250, 260 years ago. Back in 1776, we debunked mercantilism, and Ricardo just sent it in its grave. We thought, but now I guess it's like coming back. Um,
So, what is your
and
claim that this Intel ownership is socialism?
oh well, yeah. I mean that's quite quite literally definition of socialism. Government takes ownership
What's the
stake in the means of production. Um,
Well,
so
they're not taking the means of production. Owning 10% of a stock is not owning the means of production. Do you realize that?
so do you know what a stock is?
Yeah, it's ownership of a company, the assets, the
Yeah.
liabilities, the debt, some of
Right.
the equipment, everything.
Yes.
So, yeah, they own 10% of everything, but they don't own the means of productions. They don't own the factories that these things are being manufactured in. So, they don't own the means of
So
production.
they have a 10% claim on all of the capital goods, the productive equipment that the company has. They
ten
own
percent
those.
of it, which means they do not even own the majority of the. They don't even own enough to actually vote in shareholder meetings. They would have to own. I mean, they can vote in like general shareholder meetings, but like for the actual higher up shareholder meetings, they'd have to own like 20% to actually get like a say in what goes on in the company. And second off, we already own a bunch of other companies. You realize that, right? Like, we have Gene and what is it called? The
Ginny
mortgage
Mae.
company. Yeah, Jeannie Mae. We already own the the federal mortgage company, which is, would you consider that socialism? We own like I think 100% of that, and also once again,
Um,
10% of Intel does not mean we own the means of production. And you're right. The definition of socialism means we own the means of productions, which quite literally we both just agreed we don't. They don't own even the majority of the means of productions, much less the actual means of productions.
yeah. So
Fannie Mae, yeah.
there's Fannie Mae and then Ginny Mae. So those are there's two different. You got like the government National Mortgage Association, and then but anyway, so yeah, basically hey, that's another issue. Uh, to get on what we were saying, I guess, like, yeah, I'm no, it's terrible what Trump has done. It's a claim. You have a 10% claim on the productive equipment, which
But
are means of production.
there's already companies that the country owns. I mean, I can go through an entire list of them if you want. I mean, I don't know what's terrible about it, and also, I mean, that just makes it better for the country because then we own a percentage of a company, and it's an American company, and our whole country can see benefits. Second off, we already own a bunch of assets. We own a bunch of companies. I don't understand how people can argue that this is socialism or argue why it's so terrible. I mean, why would you think it's terrible?
Oh, I mean, it's terrible for a number of reasons. One is that like most like these equity stakes and this like nationalization, this would take place like in wartime scenarios or like financial crisis scenarios. This is just like out of the open, out of nowhere.
But what
Um,
about the United States Postal Service? What about
yeah,
Amtrak? What about
we should
Tennessee Valley
the government
Authority? What
shouldn't own any
about
of that. The
Federal Deposit Insurance
uh,
Corporation? What about? I mean, there's so
yeah,
many companies we own. I mean,
so the
there's
federal
reasons we
deposit.
own these companies too, because it's it provides
So
stuff through federal tax money. It makes these services better and whatnot, and these are
so
needed
yeah.
services.
So yeah, I guess well, all of them are terrible. Like we should get rid of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. We should get rid of the
That's
U.S.
not terrible.
Postal
That insures people's money. You want if a bank goes bankrupt, do you think the person that puts their money in there should be bankrupt? Why is that terrible?
because I mean, all right. Do you want to get into this? Um, so yeah, there's a lot of reasons. One, because it causes what's called moral hazard. So basically, um, the if someone deposits their money into a bank and the bank knows that no matter what they do with the money, if they lend it out and the person asks for their money and they don't have the reserves their money to give them, then the government will just print money and give it to them. So it creates a moral hazard for the bank to take reckless behavior,
Well,
for the
this is
bank to be.
going down a long, long
Yes,
conversation
exactly,
that you
that's
bring
why I
that up
didn't.
because every single bank, once you deposit $200, they're legally allowed to loan out $200 10 times, even though that money doesn't exist. They're creating money from thin air. So every time someone goes to a bank and deposits $1,000, they are loaning out $10,000. I mean, that's just how the banking system works, and that's how money is generating in the economy. Yeah, it might be inflationary. It might cause issues and whatnot, but that's like a really deep conversation if you want to go down that rabbit hole. I think we should stay more on topic, but
Yeah, so
I mean that's already
basically,
happening
yeah.
regardless. Even if we didn't have that, they would still be doing that because
So
that's how mortgages are generated. That's how car loans are generated. That's why we have the most open and free credit system in the entire world because we're able to basically generate and print money out of thin air. If it wasn't for that, I mean, the majority of money out there doesn't even exist. I think, like 75 or 90% of the money out there is just digital. And most of it's actually just generated from the bank. Every time you deposit $1,000, they can loan out, $9,000,
yeah, so yeah, a lot of what you said is correct.
$10,000.
Um,
Yeah.
but most of like yeah, it is true they have the money multiplier, and then but I guess like one thing that I would have a issue with what you said is that this is because basically the government has created this kind of scenario, and in a free market it really wouldn't work this way.
So
You'd
how
have
does it have to do with anything with the FDIC?
but
The
yeah.
FDIC is just making sure when the bank does go under for being, dummies that they protect the person that put their money in there. It has nothing to do with the bank loaning its money out. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were doing this way before the FDIC. I mean, we can research all of this, but I don't think the reason they
Yeah,
do this
so
is because of the FDIC.
yeah, it's because the government was there to give favors to them. Um, yeah,
I
so
mean, this
the
all
banks
ties
know.
into the federal banking system.
Yeah, the banks know that whenever they act a fool, and if they're systemically important banks, then if they take risky behavior, that's and the losses are covered and socialized, then or
I
they
mean,
know
a
that the
bunch of banks in
losses.
2008 went out of business, and the government came and bailed them out because, oh, we need these banks, yada yada. They should have never done that either.
Yes, exactly, because they know that the government will be there to save the day when they act a fool. And that's we've
Okay, what
created a
about the
socialist banking
USPS?
system
What
essentially.
about Amtrak? What about,
Um,
what about any of these other
yeah,
companies? They're
all
all
of them.
horrible because they're all owned by the government.
Yeah, all of them should. They create perverse incentives and they're terrible. All of them should
Okay,
go.
what about the public school system then? If we're going to
All of
go
that.
down that
Yeah,
route,
they should go
so
too.
you'd get rid of public school.
Yes.
All right, well, that's a crazy idea, but I don't really care if we did or not. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, well, if you want to talk about that's fine. I'm trying to talk about Trump, of course. and his policies. But yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I
they
think
literally screamed and said that's what MAGA and Republicans want to do. Liberals were screaming and bitching and saying, "Oh, the Trump supporters, they want to get rid of the public education system." But you're
yeah,
literally
I
sitting
want
here
to.
telling people that you want
I
to do
want
that.
to. I wish you guys wanted to, but I want to get rid of it. Yeah, I think schools will be provided for much better and much cheaper if it was provided for by entrepreneurs.
Did you go
But
to a
anyway,
private school or did you go to a school that was funded by the government?
it was funded by the government.
So what if the kids' parents can't afford to send them to private schools? Then what's going to happen? They're just
What
not
if
going to be educated.
what if parents can't afford to feed kids afford to feed their kids?
I mean, feeding kids are cheaper than a lot of these private schools, to be fair. But
Yeah, but that's because the government crowds them out. They call it crowded out. Basically, it means that when the government invests in something or does something, and provides a service for free, it makes it unprofitable for the private sector to produce said service at low cost. It's kind of like the seen and the unseen is what this economist named Bastiat would say.
well,
Basically,
most
like
parents wouldn't pay $500 to $1,000 for private school, and most private schools cost $10,000 to $20,000. And if you went to
yeah,
public school, you probably remember a lot of the kids' parents wouldn't even spend like 50, $100 to give them school supplies.
yeah.
So how are those kids ever going to get an education if it was a privatized system?
So basically, education is becoming very cheap because of recent innovations and AI, of course. So there would be ways that you could do this. Basically, the best way to do this, of course, is with entrepreneurs finding cost-effective ways to do this. And basically,
Like I just said, some
um,
parents wouldn't even spend $50 or $100 to send their kids to school. So I don't think they're going to put any money in it whatsoever. So how do we get past that?
yeah, I
If
guess.
you want us to go back to Intel, I mean, drop a super chat or something.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to get on Intel, but you brought up public education. You're like, oh, you want to get rid of the
No,
post
this all
office. Oh,
ties
you
to
want
it.
to
I
get
said,
rid
what
of,
about all these other
yeah,
corporations that
yeah, and I want to get rid of them. Like that's the whole point of what
every
I'm
single
saying.
one of them. So you don't want
Every
any.
single, every single government, every single thing the government does that doesn't have to do with protecting property rights, I want to get rid of.
So you want to get rid of public roads?
Yes,
That is
absolutely.
absolutely ridiculous.
Okay,
I mean, bro, none of 99.9, there would be no roads. There would be
it's
no
not
roads
true.
except in residential areas.
That's not true.
No one's gonna. I mean, people aren't gonna start putting $10,000 per person to build roads. And then if we started collecting money again and got a group of people putting money towards in it, that would basically be a government system.
If what?
What about bridges? He just said he doesn't care.
Oh, bridges would be provided for. It basically depends on how profitable it is to build a bridge. So if it's the most value productive use of the resources, then it'll be profitable to make. And if not, then something else is more is better to make. But anyway, we're getting off the point here. Um, but yeah, all that stuff should be all that stuff should be privatized, 100%. Um, but yeah, no. I guess to get on to Trump's point. But yeah, no. I guess like, but there's several reasons to be I actually wrote an article about this, and it's in Mises.org. It's so it's called Trump statism intensifies. Um, and basically, I go over um, a number of things that
No
basically
roads equals more. No potholes. Hell yeah, more 4x4s.
yeah. So there would be roads, of course. But there would just be a more efficient use of roads, and the materials would be it would just be a more efficient way of building them, and there might be other means of transportation that are just more productive, but the only way we would know that is with economic calculation, of course. But this is besides the point. We're trying to talk about Trump here, unless you want to continue to talk
Yeah,
about
let's talk
roads.
about Trump. I mean, I don't think there's much debating. I mean, I think most people disagree with this, so I don't really know what there is to debate about it.
There's a lot to debate, but yeah, most people do disagree, but they're all wrong.
If we all
Anyway,
start, so wait, why do you hate people? Why do you hate the government that builds roads? Is it because they waste the money? Is that the point that you're trying to make, or like what is the specific reason that you hate all government enterprises?
well, it's very simple. The government doesn't have economic calculation.
So you're saying the government doesn't know what they're doing with their money?
Yeah, that's a way of saying it. But I
But they
guess
do
like to
have
be more.
they do have the economics right because they literally have a budget, they have a spreadsheet, they're literally punching in all these numbers left and right, and if they go over the budget, then they can't finish the project a lot of the time. I mean, we've seen this in other
Um,
countries, and I'm sure we've seen this in the U.S. too in some places.
yeah, so basically, the government does not have a profit and loss statement. Is what I mean by that. So,
I mean, because everything they're taking in. I mean, how are you going to make money off a road? How is there a profit or a loss statement for that?
well, you have
You're
well, you
just
base.
losing money.
Yeah, so you charge people based on the factors like pro rata to the weight of the vehicle, how much damage it's going to do to the road. Um, you take into account how much they're driving on the road, et cetera, et cetera. The entrepreneurs will have to figure that out. You and I could speculate on how they would do it. You could put like things under their car or something, but that's just for entrepreneurs to figure out what's the most productive way of charging them, what's the right speed limit, what's the most efficient way of building this road, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things for entrepreneurs to figure out. The ones that do it the best are going to make the most profits, and we can go on and on. But basically, um, yeah, the government doesn't have profits and losses, so it doesn't know whether or not whenever it undertakes a project, it doesn't know whether or not the value of the project is productive to consumers. So if a project it happens to be productive to consumers in the free market, you get a profit signal. That's it signals to produce more of said thing. So you get big profits, and big
Well,
profits
they're
are
not a
assigned.
private company. They're not really trying to make. I mean, you can't make money on driving down a road. I mean, you
Yes,
can
you
make
can.
money on I mean, what are you gonna do? Put a toll booth or something? What?
However, that's for entrepreneurs to figure out. I mean, you could put
So
something
you
under
don't
their
know
car.
how.
It's not for me to figure out. No,
I don't know. Maybe
I
they
just
can
speak
put
from
road signs.
I just speak for the economist lens. I don't speak for the entrepreneur lens.
I don't know. Maybe they can put advertisements instead of road signs. I have no idea.
Um, yeah. So basically, I don't know.
So
Yeah,
people
we'll
in
have
rural
it.
areas that don't have much traffic wouldn't have any roads. Is that like because it's not cost efficient? It doesn't make a lot of profit. It doesn't make a lot of money. They're losing money. They shouldn't have roads.
Yeah. So people in rural areas, yeah. It depends. Like, how rural is it? One. If it's very it depends like one is like how many people live there, like how rural is it, and then two is like if it how fancy does the road need to be. Maybe it's just a dirt road. Maybe it's who knows. Only if we have economic calculation do we know what quality the road should be, what materials we should make it out of, how
But a
long it
lot of
should
things the
be.
government does is not for profit. I mean, that's not the point of the government. I mean,
I
they do
understand.
stuff for losses with our taxpayer dollars because we're paying into them. This guy is so focused on roads when they're going to have flying cars soon. I don't know about that. They said that for the last 50 years, my guy.
So someone says this guy legitimately hates poor people. Interesting. Um, Anyway, so yeah, basically, yes, I did get vaxxed, of course. Um, but anyway, sorry, I'll stop reading these comments. Um, but yeah, anyway, so basically, yeah, the government can compute the value of a project, and of course, it can't do that. And maybe some people would say that that's a good thing that it doesn't do that, but of course, um, they would be wrong because we have limited factors of production and we don't know where to allocate these factors without the ability to compute the profitability of a project. So when we have the ability to compute the profitability of a project, we can have an objective criteria for what constitutes a productive employment of resources.
But you think the only way to see how well something does for society is with money or profits, or is it like if it actually helps people, is that something that matters or not?
Yeah, no, there's certainly more to society than profits. It's just if we want to judge the the success of a project, of something that involves pecuniary, something that involves factors of production, then you're going to have profits be the judge, because ultimately
What
the
about a road in a poor area? Like, so poor people in poor areas don't deserve roads, or what are your thoughts on that?
yeah, they would likely have lower quality roads, if any at all. Maybe it would be more profitable for them to ride their bikes. It depends, like,
How are they going
because
to ride a bike through a swamp and mud and dirt and water? I mean, it's
well,
hard to ride a bike on on a rock road.
maybe they're too busy, they're too poor to build roads, so they build like these pathways, these I don't know, it depends. We just need
Are they
economic
going to use a
calculation to figure it
machete and
out.
cut through the Florida jungle, the Florida
Who
swamp?
knows? It depends on where they live.
The only wealthy areas are going to have nice roads and private schools, and the poor areas are going to have, no schools
Yeah, I mean,
and no roads.
it's like I guess it like it depends on what you're talking about, but but yeah, I guess like you really need to economize when you're talking about poor people, because with such limited resources, they
So
they
limit the
they
resources even more. Don't give them. They get low quality roads. Like, would you just give them any kind of roads? No schools and no roads. I
the
mean,
government should
like you said
provide.
before, don't the illegal immigrants need our resources and our capitals to better their lives? But we can't give our resources and our capital to, the poor people. You said they
uh,
deserve, no roads or rocky roads because they can't
so
pay very
yeah,
much for it.
no, I don't think that immigrants should get any welfare. I think they should get zero welfare and zero. I don't. I think, yeah, no, none of that stuff. I think
Well,
nobody
giving
should
them
get
free
welfare.
citizenship
Um,
and free and letting them stay in our country for free, I would argue that's kind of a form of welfare.
okay, I don't think so, but okay. Um, anyway, so I guess like yeah, no, but what I was talking about earlier is the immigrants, of course, get more capital goods, so they have higher productivity here in the United
But
States,
not
but they're
people
not
that live
getting
in
any
poor
welfare.
areas.
They're not getting any welfare, though, of course, because they're contributing to economic welfare. They're not taking away. But they're not. But anyway, um, I guess yeah, we keep getting onto these like side projects. If you want to continue, I
Okay,
guess
what do
we
you
can
want to
talk
talk
about it.
about?
If you want to talk about Trump's mercantilism, we can. Or if you want to continue to talk about how poor people will get schooling and roads under
I mean, you're the
a.
one that said poor people won't get a school or won't get roads, and with that, my assumption is they're probably not going to get school either, or they're going to get very low quality school because you said they would get very low quality roads, maybe a dirt road, maybe no road.
Yeah, so yeah, it depends. Like, how poor are they is the question. Because, like,
They're below the poverty line.
yeah, if they're below, who knows? Like, I don't even know. Like, how poor are they? How much do they prefer roads? Because this is like a very important point that people don't understand often. Of course, some people do. If you, but many people don't get this point. Is that whenever you build a road, you're taking factors of production away from other employments. So,
So we got
you
to give it to the rich
so
people
so
because they
the
pay for it. So we got to
so
give rich
can
people roads.
just
Poor
just
people don't
please
deserve them.
just please let me finish this point. So whenever
Okay,
you use
continue.
factors of production to build a road, for example, you're taking away factors of production from other areas in the economy. For example, you could be taking factors of production away from healthcare, hospitals. Okay, those people, they could have fewer employees, fewer materials, et cetera, et cetera. If and the land could be used to be building other things. So basically, whenever you say that we should have X, Y, Z, just know you're saying that we shouldn't have A, B, and C as well, right? So whenever you choose something, you're taking away from something else, because we have limited factors of production. Um, so basically, the only way to figure out how much of X should we build, how much of Y should we build, etc., um, is if we have economic calculation. That's how we know what material should we, how fancy should the road be, given our relative scarce resources. How fancy should the road be? What material should we make it out of? How long should it be? How much? What material should the hospital be made of? Production is a very complex thing. So how do we figure out how to do it in the most efficient way possible? Um, we need to have profits and loss to do this. So yeah, basically, that's how poor people and would have to tackle this project. They would just have more limitations than rich people, and they would have to decide based on their
They'd have
preferences.
so they would have a dirt road, and Trump would have a solid gold road.
What's that? They would have a dirt road.
Yeah, you said before that poor people would have like no road or a dirt road, and the rich people
Mhm.
could have better roads. So Trump would have a solid gold road.
I mean, probably not gold. I mean, that would be insanely expensive. But yeah, you would have
Gold plated. He would have a gold plated road.
but you would basically, yeah, you'd have higher quality roads for people who are willing to pay for it, and lower quality roads for people who are willing to pay less. Um, so yeah, that would just be the way it is.
So basically, 100% of rural poor America would have no road or dirt roads.
50%? No, America's a very rich
No, I said
country.
like I said 90% of the poor areas,
Oh, 90% of the poor areas. If we're
or if
talking about
not
people.
all of the poor areas.
Yeah, I mean, only if it's impossible to know what the world would look like. Um, we would be significantly richer if we had a free market. Um, but I guess we don't know what would happen. You just have factors of production would be allocated in their most productive employments. That's all I can, or
I mean,
not.
we
Not.
do have
I,
a
I
free
shouldn't say they're
market,
most
but the free
productive. I should
market
say
you want is a
slightly
market where they can
imprecise.
sell narcotics and, poor people have dirt roads and whatnot. That's the kind of I mean, if we implemented everything you said, first off, people would be selling narcotics. Second off, poor people would have no road. But then again, if poor people could sell narcotics, they'd probably they probably wouldn't be poor. So maybe those ideas would work together. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they would be able to sell anything. In fact, in today's world, whenever you outlaw drugs, if you it basically shrinks the amount of supply of the good in existence, and it makes it so that because marginal firms, or there are firms that exit the industry whenever something's illegal, and so you have
Good.
fewer firms producing
People
it.
shouldn't be on drugs.
But the problem with that is that whenever you have fewer production of said thing, all else equal, the price goes up, and the profits are
Okay, no one should be on those substances.
but the
No one should be taking
prices, yeah.
narcotics.
But the thing is that the producers of said drug that's outlawed,
Yeah, they make more
their
money.
their
I
their
get it.
profits go up. Yeah. So basically, it's like a terrible thing. It causes like all sorts of corruption and all sorts of problems. So you wouldn't have that, for example. But anyway, but yeah, if you want to talk about mercantilism now, we can. Um,
Talk about whatever you
and,
want. I'm up for it.
so you're basically you agree that.
Leslie, I just want to talk about one of these comments. Leslie,
Sure.
you don't even know how much debt our country is in. You said $3 trillion. We're in $36 trillion of debt. Please read a book or a fucking a source on Google. Thank you.
Yeah, 37. So I guess yeah, I mean we can talk about that too. So like right now the government is spending just a huge amount of money. The government spends over $7 trillion per year.
But there
And
was a
United
$200 billion surplus in June.
the debt there but in a yeah, but in a year you're running over a $2 trillion deficit. Um, so basically, per annum, you're running a multi-trillion-dollar deficit right now. And so tax revenue
I
is
looked at the numbers between the spending of Biden and Trump, and I would have to look them up again. But from what my research showed, is that Trump is basically cutting in half of what Biden is spending.
that's not true.
I can look up the numbers here for you.
Look them up. You're just wrong. Right now the
Why do you
government is
think Biden spent less money than Trump?
well. I mean the government spending, the things that the government spends money on, are going up continuously. So
Even after we cut all these useless government positions and government organizations that you
yes.
would pretty much agree with because
So
you don't like government businesses?
yeah. So do you know what the main things the government spends the money on?
Military.
Okay, military's one, but there's things that the government spends much more on.
What? Military is our number one spending.
No, it's not.
We can break down these numbers in a second as well.
Okay, so I'll explain it to you, and you could look it up if you want. So number one is Social Security. Okay, Social Security is
That
number
does
one.
not outweigh military spending, and there's no
All right.
way.
How much do you want to bet? You're wrong. You're wrong. So next is Medicare and Medicaid. If you combine those two together, then it would be Medicare and Medicaid. It's about $2 trillion. So if you combine them together, but I guess like interest on the debt would be the next. So interest on the debt is actually surpassed military spending. It's about 1.1
That is,
trillion
I
dollars
believe,
per
is
year.
true.
$1.1 trillion per year is just interest on the debt. That's it, just interest. So we're running a budget deficit of over $1 trillion per year, or just by interest. Or interest is adding to the deficit substantially. About like 1 in 4 tax dollars go to interest or something insane. Um, so basically,
Okay, I will
um,
give you credit. You are right. Social Security spending is more than the military.
yes. So yeah, basically. Uh, yeah, so government spending is out of control. Why is it that Biden spent more money than Trump did in 2017? Why? Because well, one, I say Biden or Trump, but fiscal policy is also Congress and whatnot. Two, the trajectory of fiscal policy is more government spending because as
So
Social
you admit that
Security,
Biden spent more than Trump's first term and his second and Biden's recent term.
yeah, I mean, both of them were massive spenders. The federal
Every
government spends
president is massive
right.
spenders.
The government spends 25%. The federal government spends roughly twenty
I
five
mean, of
percent of
course, your
GDP.
idea would be genius. We just stop maintaining public roads and just, stop all that stuff. And, that'll save a bunch of government money, but that's not really realistic.
Yeah, so I mean, very little of the federal budget on a relative basis goes to government roads. A lot of it goes to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and so like interest on the national or basically a lot of the government spending is transfer payments. So if we, my number one concern would be to get rid of transfer payments. So Social Security and Medicare would be at the top of the priority to get rid of.
So all the poor
Um,
people that. So wait, the number one thing you would get rid of is Medicare and Social Security, and you consider yourself a Democrat?
I wouldn't say I mean, I would say like if I had to choose, I would say I'm a Democrat, but I'm probably more of, I don't really have a party, I guess.
I can agree with that, but you want to get rid of Medicare and Social Security, but the Democrats have been screaming at Trump for quote unquote getting rid of people's Medicare and Social Security.
Um,
People pay money into Social
yeah,
Security. What about those people? What about the people that are
yeah.
living off Social Security? What about the poor people that paid into that system? They need to get their money back.
So the government blew it on consumption.
Okay, well, these people still deserve their money back.
Yeah, well, the thing is
If
that the
you
money's
owe me
gone.
money, I don't care. Like, if you spent all your money, you still owe me money.
I understand, but the money it's fucking gone, dude. Do you not
Well, they
like
have the money. They're
the
paying it out.
government,
I mean, it's not gone. You're gonna pay me my money
bro?
one way or another.
They've blown it on consumption. The government has spent it
So
on
you're
wars,
saying
and
because the government spent too much money that they shouldn't pay people Social Security and Medicare, they should just cut it all together.
I'm saying that the government has the way for the government to pay these benefits is to rob young working people of their money.
Young working people, we've already been over this.
Yes.
The majority of taxpayers are not young working people. They're people that make over six figures a year.
Okay, so all right, so are you aware of the payroll tax rate?
Yeah, I don't know the exact tax rate, but yeah, I know about it. Are you aware of the Medicare and the Social Security tax rate?
Yes.
Okay,
So
then what's your point?
okay, so my point is that okay, so Rich, do you know like if it changes based on like how much money you make?
No, I don't know this.
Okay, so it's true for income taxes. the top 50% of earners pay 98%, 97% of the tax, right? For payroll tax, it's different because everybody pays 15.3% of their tax. Okay, so basically, the employee pays 6.2% in Social Security. The employer matches that 6.2%, and then it's like 1.35% for Medicare. Okay, um, so or 1.45%. So it comes out to 2.9 for Medicare. So so it comes out to 15.3%. For Social Security and Medicare. That those are payroll taxes. So everybody, regardless of how much they earn, pays 15.3% of their income to the government, basically, of their wage income. So basically, this is true of anybody, regardless of how much money they make. So you could be working a minimum wage job. You pay 15.3% of your income to the government, and it goes to Social Security checks, like grannies and grandpas cashing in Social Security checks. Those people are getting paid by people who are working productively right now, and it's a huge burden on the of course, like the people who are working right now, because that's 15.3% of your income. Like, even if you make $17 an hour, if you invest fifteen
Once
point three
again,
percent
though,
of
these people paid into Social Security. I get that
yes,
you don't
but
want to pay Social Security tax and Medicare and the payroll tax and whatnot, but these people already paid into the taxes.
yes. Okay. So someone said that I pay 38.5% federal taxes based on your income. So one that you can't pay more than 37%. The top federal tax rate is 37% for income taxes. Okay. The average rate that's paid, according to the tax foundation, is about is roughly 14%. It's about 13.8% or so. So if you make a very low income, you pay very low income tax. If you make a very high income, the most you can pay, the very most you can pay for federal income tax in the United States is 37% of your income. That's the absolute most you can pay. Um,
What about
so
state taxes? I mean, you said
um,
federal, but
Okay, so that's federal taxes. Okay, so I'm specifically talking about
I
federal
know you said
taxes.
federal.
Um,
80,000-pound trucks would get stuck in mud holes, dirt potholes would destroy the tires, accidents will occur, private road systems would be a disaster, roads are the veins of the nation. I'm assuming you're a truck driver, sir, and I 100% agree with what you said, but he probably would disagree some way, somehow.
okay, so yeah. Anyway, so basically, poor people in the so basically for the income tax system is very progressive. The payroll tax system doesn't change based on income. Okay, or doesn't the tax rate doesn't change based on income. It's a proportional tax. So it basically it's a it's very destructive to young
So
people
what
who are
about
just
the
getting
old
started.
people that are living on, Social Security and Medicare tax that only get, or not Medicare, Social Security and Medicare, and they only have $1,000 a month, and that's the only money they have, and you're taking away their money they paid in working their entire lives. Now they're gonna
Yeah,
be homeless.
it's
You
terrible.
don't care about them,
They got conned by the government. The government stole their paychecks, and uh
I mean, they're still
now
getting paid right now, so I don't know why you're saying they got conned.
um
That's an assumption.
they paid in. They got conned because the government blew their money. They didn't
But
save it.
they're
It's not
still
like the
getting
government.
paid back.
Yeah, because they're stealing from people who are working right now.
Paying taxes is not stealing. You're paying that money.
Well, the thing
I mean,
is that
taxation
yeah.
might be theft. I can agree with you. Taxation, I don't like it, but when you're giving someone money willingly, I would not call that stealing.
Yeah, so I mean, you're paying willingly. The government is forcing you to pay 15.3% of your income to them to fund a Ponzi scheme program.
53% of your income?
15.3.
15%? Okay, okay.
So 15.3% of your income, Social Security and Medicare, goes to
Well,
pay
you're
for
also
people
going to
who
get
are
Social
old.
Security and Medicare. Not that I want it, but I agree that there should be an option. You
Yes,
don't
but
have
the
to
thing
pay in the
is
system. I think there should be an option. You don't
the
have to
thing
pay
is
in the
yeah.
system, then you don't. Then you won't get the benefits. I would
If you
choose
made
not
that
to pay in the
option,
system if it was
yeah,
up to me.
if you made it an option, then you realize that the system would go bankrupt because people would
Yeah, I
stop
know. That's why they don't
going
do that.
in. Exactly. So like this is the issue, right? you say, oh, the Social Security will be there for you whenever you want, and you want to
I
collect it.
agree with all the
The
stuff
problem
you're
is that,
saying and whatnot, but I don't
yeah,
agree with like taking people off Social Security that already paid for it. I mean, we could do it like this. You know, people in the future can have the option not to get the money, but you know, I don't think
it's
there
going to make the
people that are about to go into, huh?
it's going to make the program bankrupt.
I mean, there's no way to really do it that's going to be fair. You're going to cause like millions of people to go homeless, and you're going to end millions of potential early retirements because you don't want to give people the money they paid in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be. It would. Yeah. It's going to be a terrible thing. Like the government has done this terrible thing, and now, like you don't have to like jerk. Take them off immediately. Um, you can like phase them off of it. You could be like, hey, over X amount year period, we'll take away X%, eventually going to zero. To get them off the but I mean, it's destroying young people. This program, Social Security and Medicare, is destroying young people.
I don't
It's
know if this is
terrible.
true, but someone says back when Social Security made the retirement age 65, the average life expectancy was only 61. You were never
It
really
was
supposed to
very low.
collect.
I don't know if it was
You were never supposed to
61.
collect in the. Yeah, I don't think
I
the
don't know if
average
it's
life
but
in that
it was
low.
very low. Maybe I don't know what it was, but it was much lower than it is today. So people are living older, much older than they are.
One thing I will
Much
say
older
is a
than they were.
scam. You didn't mention this yet, but they tax your Social Security money, so that's also bullshit. Why does the government give you money and then tax the money they give you? That
Yeah, it's
makes
just
no
an
sense.
accounting. It's an accounting trick. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Just like you said, just like it taxes its employees, even though they're getting taxed money. It's like what the fuck? It just doesn't make any sense. It's the government for you. So anyway, but yeah, no. So yeah, I guess like Social Security and Medicare is making us go bankrupt. Is helping to make us go bankrupt. They're both terrible programs, causing huge amounts of foregone capital accumulation. They're destroying young people's ability to save. Like if you worked a minimum wage job and or not minimum wage, say like $17 an hour, and you saved 15.3% of your income, and put it in S&P 500 index fund on a 9.5% return, by retirement age, you'll have
Yes, I know.
over $1 million for someone who just works a regular job.
Do
So
you own any stocks? Because I do, and I don't really believe in like I like to invest in individual companies. The S&P 500 I think is another government scam, but it's good to own some of that too. But if you invest in companies directly, you can get way higher returns. At least in my experience, I've been doing it for like the last
mm,
9 or 10 years, and I've always outperformed the market
really,
of 9 or 10%. Yeah, I invested in Tesla a long time ago.
oh nice. Well, very good. I wish I could have been wise enough to do such a
But
thing.
yeah, 9% isn't really that hard to do when you're investing in the stock market. Of course, there's going to be recessions. It's not guaranteed every single year if you invest in individual companies, but you can pick some
Yeah.
good companies.
Yeah, yeah, I guess, yeah, I mean, investing is really fun, and we can talk about that if you want. But I'm trying to get to
Yeah,
I
continue.
guess
Continue.
the tariff situation. I guess if you want to talk about that.
Yeah,
So
go
like,
ahead. Let's talk about the tariffs, and then we can wrap it
oh
up.
yeah, but we agree on that the government spending is out of control, and we should phase out Social Security and Medicare. Did we agree on that?
No, I don't agree that people that paid money to the government should get ripped off and not get their money back. No, but I do agree that it is not a very good system.
Uh, okay, well,
It's not very effective.
moving on. All right, so like, what do you make of tariffs?
Well, I can name you plenty of laws that was passed by Congress that passes down the power to the president under certain circumstances. And also, if tariffs are so bad, a couple things about tariffs I'll make. My first statements about tariffs are going to be that first off, why did Biden raise the tariffs on China? Second off, why did other presidents use tariffs and not all of them were during the Great Depression? And also, why did other countries put tariffs on us first that were at a much higher rate for the most part? I mean, there's a couple countries that might not have, but the majority of them put higher tariffs on us first. And if that hurts the country implementing the tariffs, then why did they put higher tariffs on us first? I mean, there's a bunch of questions and comments that I can make about it, but I mean, these are going to be hard to dispute. But under all these federal laws that I've read, I mean, I argued with someone the other day about this. I read them off all the laws that were passed by Congress to, give presidential authority over tariffs under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
But
Um, okay, so you mentioned that uh, why did Biden raise tariffs? I mean, Biden has terrible economic policy. I guess like you got me there. Um, and why did other countries put tariffs on us? I guess like the other countries have terrible economic policy. I mean, that's all I can say about
China
that.
has terrible economic policy. Pretty much 190 countries you're saying have terrible economic policies. 196 countries have terrible economic policies. Even
Basically.
if they have higher GDP, even if they have more less debt than us, even if they have more cash money on the books and less debt and higher GDP per capita and higher incomes, they're horrible economic policy. That's the statement you're gonna make.
Most of there's not a single country today that I would say has good economic policy.
Not a single good country.
I wouldn't say any country has what I would say good economic policy. No,
I mean, did you study all these countries' economics?
none of them have a free market.
I mean, the way that you want a free market has never been done before, and because it's not a very successful idea in general.
Well, it's never been tried. Yeah, so it's
I
you
mean, it
can't.
has certain parts of it has been tried before, but that's neither here nor there. Not all of it at once has been tried before, but I don't
Yeah,
think it
so
would work.
yeah, so uh, yeah, I guess
But
like
what about
other.
Switzerland? Or what about Luxembourg, where like Luxembourg, the average salary is like $190,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean Luxembourg would be better off if they didn't have taxes and regulations.
I mean, you sound more and more like a Republican, man. The only thing that I heard from you that makes you a Democrat is you saying open borders.
Yeah, I mean I'm definitely not.
You're more right leaning than you know.
I if I guess like I want open borders. I want like like I want free exchange and production. So that entails
Well,
like
I want,
abortion.
free trade as well, but if someone does something like, harmful to America, I believe we should retaliate. Like, we shouldn't just be like, oh, okay, we'll give you free trade, even though you're not going to give us free trade. Like, wouldn't you agree if another country isn't going to give us free trade, that we should also not give them free trade? I mean, it's really that simple.
No, I
You're an
disagree.
economics guy. So we should
I
still
disagree
give them free
because
trade, even though it doesn't benefit us.
it does benefit us. So basically,
Them
whenever a
selling goods
country,
into our country does not benefit us. We don't need their goods. We can make our own goods. Name
yeah,
something that we would need from them. We don't need to buy a new phone every year. We can. There are. I'm sure there's some smartphone manufacturers out there that are making phones in America. I don't know about it. I'm sure there are people that will make computers and whatnot. But I mean,
mm.
we shouldn't just give them free reign in our country and let them, economically terrorize us.
Yeah, so I guess these comments are so funny. So anyway, I guess like these yeah, so the total product of the economy is lower than otherwise would have been if you raise tariffs. So like for example, if a country raises their
We don't
tariffs,
need product. That's consumerism. We don't need as much products as we already have. We need less American consumerism in general. We don't need to buy a new phone every time it comes out. We don't need a new laptop every 6 months when a new one comes out.
okay, great. Well, then you increase savings, which increases production.
Okay,
So
we can increase savings. We don't need to have these countries sell products into our country if they're not going to give us free trade agreements. Like, if you're so open for free trade, then it would make more sense if you were for tariffs. Because if you're open
what?
for free trade, you would want our country to tariff these other countries until they agreed to a free trade agreement. Because raising tariffs and terrorizing other countries back with tariffs have, seemingly proven deal after deal that these countries are giving more and more closer to what free trade would actually look like. I can go off a list of all the countries that's made deals with us, but before they were economically terrorizing us, doing 70% tariffs, 60% tariffs, 100% tariffs, 200% tariffs. Then we come back at them with 300%, 400%. Then they say, oh, no, don't do that. Let's, negotiate a deal. Let's make free market. It's made like free trade and whatnot. I mean, we've never seen a circumstance where we implement tariffs back on these countries and they're like, okay, let's just go to a tariff war for 10 years. That's never happened once in our country's history. Every time that we enact tariffs on someone, they want to come to the table and make negotiations for free trade. So if you're pro free trade, you would think that you're pro tariffs because tariffs help lead the free trade when other countries are using unfair trade practices. I mean, there's example after example after example after example of this. And even if they don't always lead to, we can even pretend for a second that they don't always lead to free trade. In the cases that they don't lead to free trade, they also, encourage American manufacturers and American companies to produce products and such. Like, we have Tesla. There's a reason that Biden put 100% tariffs on electric Chinese cars coming into our country. That way we can, have better American cars in here. And we still have technically open trade. I mean, anyone can buy a Chinese electric car, I'm pretty sure, in this country. They just have to pay a lot of tariffs. They have to pay all the import costs and whatnot. But it's
Yeah.
helping American car companies, they can grow here locally and they can improve their goods here.
Okay, so yeah, I guess like there's a lot of things there. One being that if you're pro free trade, you should be pro tariff, and that's, I mean, it's just it couldn't be further from the truth, of course. If you want countries to lower their tariffs, a good way to do that would be by having no tariffs yourself.
No, we already had no tariffs on these countries. How would
It's not true.
remaining It is true. We've had no tariffs on some of these countries. I mean, I have my computer right here. I can tell you what countries we had no tariffs on, and they started putting tariffs on us first. I mean, I believe Vietnam was one of them. I don't think we had any tariffs on Vietnam. They had 90% tariffs on us. Do you think that's
Okay.
okay? What are we going
Yep.
to do in that circumstance?
So let me just talk for a second. All right. So this is the issue. What's going on here? One is two wrongs. You're making a two wrongs don't make a right fallacy, or two wrongs make a right fallacy, essentially. So
It's not a wrong to,
if a
get
country
revenge
raises,
and
just let me say this. So
continue.
if a country raises their tariffs, and in response you raise your tariffs, you've now made a bad situation worse. Okay, so the total product of the economy is lower now than it otherwise would have been
We don't need
because
their product. Product isn't gold, isn't them selling product into America does nothing for us. That just makes Americans spend more of their money.
no,
I mean, that
not
literally does
necessarily.
nothing. But also, let me
Actually,
talk about this dumbass comment right here. Bob, you have no brain cells. No tariffs on Russia? Yeah, we have sanctions on Russia. Look up what a sanction on Russia means, Bob. Please. Grow some
um,
IQ points. Read a book or two, Bob.
yeah, so I guess like so uh I think I forget what I was at. Anyway, so you basically, whenever a country raises a tariff, and then you try and do the same thing, you're hurting yourself. But on the point that you were talking about, well, that just makes Americans spend more money. It actually is the opposite. They can import cheaper goods from other countries than they otherwise would have, and this leaves money to buy other things or to save and invest
They don't
themselves.
need to buy stuff from other countries. You can go to an American farmer's market, buy all the food you could ever need. You can go to an American hardware store, buy all the American hardware you'd ever need. I mean, what can you not buy that's American? I'm pretty sure I can look up on Google and find that specific item made in America
Yeah, so I
or made with one of our allies. If it's not made in America, it can be made with another ally that we don't have tariffs on.
yeah, but a lot of the capital goods and the
And
production.
even if that was true, hold on, let me say one more thing. Even if that was true, we still shouldn't be, outsourcing our businesses and our goods. We shouldn't be outsourcing them. They should be American made. We used to be, a proud when our economy was stronger. We used to be a proud producer of American made products. People used to look at goods and say, "Wow, this is made in America. It's good quality." No one does that anymore because the majority of our stuff is outsourced.
Yeah, so I guess like there's a few things here. So out so whenever Americans get cheaper goods, and they have more money for to invest in wherever it's most profitable, right? So I guess like whenever Americans have free exchange, it allows factors of production to go to where they're most productive. So basically, whenever you make like a shoe factory in the United States, you're taking away factors of production from other employments. So you're taking away factors of production from, say, tech companies or whatever it is, how hospitals, or you're taking away factors of production from other employments. Um, and so basically, it's not economical to make a lot of things in the United States because the opportunity cost is too high to produce said commodity in the United States. So it makes sense
I
to
mean, they can figure out how to make it cheaper. And also, someone dropped a super chat. They said you can't just snap and have the infrastructure. That is true, but a lot of these tariffs aren't here for, they're not permanent tariffs. They're supposed to be, tariffs for a couple months, maybe until next year. It just depends whenever these countries will work out a deal. But these tariffs, most of these tariffs are not supposed to be permanent. Some of them, I'm sure, will be permanent, but the majority of these tariffs are not supposed to be permanent.
so basically you yeah, so like to get back to what we were talking about, um the United States, if you want the United States to produce more stuff, it'll do that if it has free exchange, because with free exchange, the factors of production can be used for their most productive employments. So like if, instead of having our factors of production taken away to do less productive things, they do more productive. So are you familiar with Ricardo's law of association?
No, but if they're not giving us free trade, why are we giving other countries free trade? We shouldn't be buying their goods.
Bro,
That's
you said
stimulating
this
their
like 300
economy.
times. Bro,
Yeah, no, I need to keep saying
you
it because like you keep bringing up that it's going to help stimulate this or it's going to help that or it's going to help us with this or that. I mean, that really doesn't matter. Like I said,
so
we don't
yeah.
need show us where your red hat was
So
made, please.
there's a
I mean, I'm sure you can guess where it's made, but this doesn't even have a tag on it. This hat was gifted.
maybe China.
But a lot
um,
of Trump's merchandise was made in America. But this isn't official. This is not even from Trump's web store. So I don't know why you guys are crying. And I'm also getting new hats this week. So I don't know why you guys are upset. But anyway,
so
continue.
so basically, there's a big point in economics, like a huge point in economics, that they teach you and whenever you first start trade, and it was introduced in or at least formalized. Actually, another guy introduced it, but David Ricardo is generally talked about as the guy who popularized, however you say it, uh, what you call uh, the law of comparative advantage. So it came out in his book Principles of Political Economy and Taxation, and basically what he's saying is that if a country, um, so if you have a country that is better at producing both shoes and apples, um, then it's more efficient at producing both commodities. But country B is better at producing shoes than apples. Then it's better for country B to specialize in shoes and for country A to specialize in apples because it has a lower opportunity cost. Even though it's better at producing more, it's more efficient at producing at both things. More efficient at producing apples and more efficient at producing shoes. It should focus on apples because it has a lower opportunity cost than country B does in
I
producing
understand
apples.
that, but if we went by that, then everything, basically by using that means you think everything should be made in India and China and Indonesia and Vietnam and all these other countries because those are the majority of the countries that have lower production costs for these things. I mean, lower production costs doesn't mean good quality goods and whatnot. Just because you have the lowest, costing apple in production doesn't mean it's the best quality apple. And
So
second off, that's
yeah.
even bigger a reason. We should be building up America in many different aspects. We shouldn't just have a strong military and great businesses and strong great businesses. We should also have great manufacturing. We should be leading in innovation for manufacturing of goods and materials and clothing. We should be creating new factories with entrepreneurs. Like you said, entrepreneurs can figure out the best way to do things. We should have the most leading and intelligent entrepreneurs figuring out how we can have the lowest cost for these goods. I mean, we can make AI built factories. Elon Musk is already working on technology that can do that. I mean, we've seen how he builds his cars with AI machines. I mean, it's really amazing and fantastic. But we can also literally like make our country better. Like we have certain status points in certain areas, and our manufacturing and our building and our innovation for factories has gone down. Like regardless of this even puts more people at jobs and whatnot, I think we should work on, innovating our factories and our facilities to make these kinds of things, and we should be the leading nation in this stuff. It shouldn't be China or India or Vietnam and stuff like that. It should be, the United States. We should be working on building these things better. Yes, I understand certain countries are better at this. Certain countries have this food and they have this fruit and they have this or that. Yeah, I understand that certain countries are better at stuff. But there's stuff we can control. Like we can control making the best innovative factories and facilities of the future. That's exactly why Donald Trump is working with companies like Apple and Nvidia to build some of these factories of the future, the most innovative factories that we're ever going to see. I get that, but I just don't understand. Like, you still haven't gave us a solution for the problem. You said that we can just drop our tariff. We said you could drop our tariffs to zero. Well, we already had our tariffs at zero for a lot of these countries, and they started tariffing us first. And you said that's not true, and I gave you an example, Vietnam, and then you didn't continue anymore because we can't just negotiate with them. Ask them nicely, hey, will you get rid of the tariffs? Will you get rid of the tariffs? If it was that easy, we would never have to tariff them. People and countries and dictators and rulers and kings and queens aren't just going to do what we want because we say, hey, Mr. Country, can you please lower the tariffs on us? We don't have any tariffs on you. Do you mind if you just like lower that to zero? No, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, so I guess like with the scenario where if you have tariffs on a country and they have high tariffs on you, then what I could say is that raising the tariff yourself is going to reduce total product, one, and then two, it's going to cause uncertainty for investors. Um,
Temporarily, and then what's going to happen after a while? What are the deals? What have we seen with the deals? The trade deal with the EU brought $1.7 billion direct investment into the United States. That trade deal with the EU made them purchase $750 billion of energy from the United States in the next coming years. I believe it's every year, and it also brought them $700 billion in direct investment into the United States and companies inside of the U.S. So as we've seen, like with trade deals like that, yeah, it might cause temporary problems with the stock market or temporary problems with trade. But in the long term, it's bringing investment and money back into the country, and it's also opening back up free trade. I mean, we can only go by what we've seen so far.
yeah, so I guess like you're yeah, I guess like before Trump and after capital flows into the United States because it's like everywhere else it's like you barely or almost everywhere many places I guess it's not sure that you'll have your money. It just creates a bunch of
And
uncertainty. There's
also,
not
we
like a
made
rule of law.
hundreds of billions off tariffs. There's many things, there's many sides of this. I mean, I don't see how you could be against what Trump has done with tariffs. I mean, like rebuttal what I just said. You got 1K on
Yeah.
the Vikings tonight. Trump don't let me down. I don't know who's playing, but
Okay, so you're saying so you're saying that I should be for Trump's tariffs because they're bringing in tax revenue?
no, there's multiple reasons. They're bringing in direct investment into the United States. The EU deal brought $1.3 billion investment into the United States. It lowered the tariffs for the United States. It lowered tariffs in general on our country. It opened free trade up. I mean, there's many, many different sides of it. There's like three or four or
So
five major points I can make.
you know how they get investment into the United States, right?
I mean, it depends on the circumstance and the scenario.
All right, can you walk me through it?
How do they get investment into the United States? I mean, you can tell other countries, for instance, that we're having this, new opportunity with tech, with Apple, with Microsoft, with Nvidia.
Yeah, but like how do they get the money to do that?
What do you mean? How does the country get money? How does the other country get money to do that?
Yeah.
Well, they have, like Saudi Arabia and those kinds of countries have a lot of money just set aside for investments and
Yeah,
such,
but
and
how
they
do they
have
get
certain
dollars?
criteria, huh?
But how do they get dollars?
There's many ways. Sometimes they have dollars on hand because many countries trade in dollars or invest in the U.S. dollar,
Yeah.
and
But how do they
they
get
also
them?
go through banks and systems like that. And that's another point because if they give us dollars and these tariffs are bringing dollars into our country, that means that they're investing into the dollar more and they're trading more with the dollar, and that brings the value of the dollar up. That's why the dollar fell slightly in value because of all these tariffs. But now, with all these tariffs starting to go away and more money pouring back into the economy, the value of the dollar after these tariffs slowly go away and more business deals are brought in and more dollars are spent, the value of the dollar will rise because a lot of these countries have to buy the dollar to trade in the dollar, or they're already trading in the dollar sometimes, or they have dollars on hand. I mean, it really matters on the circumstance.
Yeah, so I guess like maybe what the answer I was looking for is maybe you're familiar with like I was thinking like maybe you're familiar with the underlying accounting mechanism for how it is that, countries, or how why is it that the United States has what you call an investment surplus or a capital account surplus.
So what is that? What, break it down. What are you trying to say?
So basically, like these investments that you're talking about are basically coming from the United States runs current account deficits. Okay, so the United States imports much more than it exports. So there's a net outflow of capital out of the United States. So there are a bunch of different countries that hold a lot of dollars because they run trade surpluses with the United States, and they take those dollars and invest them in United States assets. So it's basically giving foreigners claims on our assets. In essence, that's what's happening. So they're buying our
That's
land.
exactly why we need to stop importing so many goods and export more and more goods. That's literally the point of the tariffs being enacted, so we can make more local goods and export more instead of importing
But
so much.
that doesn't help. It doesn't necessarily help exports by raising tariff. It doesn't necessarily do that. It can, but it doesn't necessarily. It can often be counterintuitive because if the dollar goes up, do you know what happens to exports?
What happens to exports?
It makes it it makes it more expensive to export whenever the dollar goes up. So when the dollar goes up, and
Well,
generally
if they're
speaking,
trading currency, yes, that's true. But if they already have a bunch of cash on hand in U.S. dollars, then it's not necessarily always true. They don't. It's only more expensive when they have to trade their currency for against U.S. dollars. That's the only time it's more expensive.
I'm sorry.
I said it's only more expensive when they have to trade their currency against the US dollar and the US dollar goes up. If they're not trading their currency against the US dollar, they have a bunch of US dollars on hand, then the price doesn't necessarily go up for them.
Oh, sure. I mean, if they have dollars, yeah. Then, but generally speaking, but what I'm saying is true, which is export when the dollar goes up, and generally that's what happens with tariffs. It doesn't always happen, um, but if the dollar goes up, generally that's because there's a lower supply of dollars outside the United States because we're importing less, so the dollar rises relative to other foreign currencies. But I guess like uh with whenever you have a whenever the dollar goes up in value, the exports it becomes more expensive to export. So Trump, I thought, wanted a weaker dollar because he wanted more exports. um but I guess but yeah, but now like I don't know, the dollar index has actually gone down. I think over the last, I mean, we could pull it up,
I
but
mean,
the
I just
dollar.
said that 2 seconds
Yeah.
ago.
Well, I thought
Meanwhile,
you were.
coal miners are opening power plants and they're being built to drill, baby, drill. If you guys have any comments, questions, anything you want to talk about, drop some super chats. Smash that like button. I think we're gonna wrap up probably in 5 or so minutes.
Yeah, but I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
you guys
just
can
said
see
that
it.
2 seconds ago.
Can you see the chart? I thought you were saying the
Yes, I
dollar's
know. I
going up,
look at this every single
but
day,
yeah.
huh?
But yeah, no. Anyway. But yeah, no. The dollar's gone
But
down, so
once the
that.
tariffs are taken down, the dollar will go up. That's what I think. But maybe you can tell me what your opinion is.
If tariffs are taken out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If tariffs are taken out, then I mean it I guess like in economic theory they would say then the dollar would fall without tariffs.
No,
But
I
it's
disagree. I think dollar would go up, and
but
also they say if interest rates go down, that the dollar will also fall. I don't know if that's necessarily true either.
Yeah, so so this is going to depend on the scenario. So it depends on how much investors like. So if tariffs spook investors, like if tariffs are not if tariffs spook investors from putting their money into the United States, they sell their dollars and the dollar goes down. So
Yeah, that's literally what happened. As
so
soon as
that's
the
what
tariffs
happened.
were enacted, the dollar
Um,
went down.
so
So that means
but
if
yeah.
tariffs were taken away, the dollar would go up.
Yeah, so yeah, basically, it could be, but in economic theory, you would say that whenever you implement a tariff, you have less exports than you otherwise would have. So that means that fewer units of your currency are overseas, and therefore, your currency, since there's a lower supply overseas against other currencies, it actually rises in value. But it depends on the scenario, like we were saying, because if you raise of course if you raise tariffs, you could also cause investor uncertainty, and that can make it so that investors
Yeah,
holding
we've already
right
seen that
right so
firsthand. But
anyway, yeah.
what do you think about lowering interest rates? Do you think that'll hurt the dollar or help the dollar?
Well, lowering interest rates is yeah, I guess lowering interest rates it's a bad idea, because and Trump wants him to do that because it makes his economy look better. You have more borrowing and spending,
I
but
mean,
I
the
guess
economy did great in 2018 and 2019. Wouldn't you say so or no?
I mean, the United States economy, the capital is accumulating, but it's just much slower than it should be because there's there's corporate taxes and income taxes and huge government spending and a lot of socialism and regulation that prevents the economy from accumulating capital like it should. So
Do
we
you
take
think the
on a lot of
economy
debt.
was doing better in 2021 or in 2018 or 2019?
Well, as far as like the growth trajectory, it's basically been on a path of stagnation all those years. But in
Of which
2021,
years? Of all those years?
I'm sorry.
In all those years or which years?
Oh, ever since really like 1990, or basically ever since like 2000, the economy's been growing very slowly.
I could buy groceries in 2018. Yeah, I agree with that. So you don't think
Food,
so wait, you
food
never
is
answered the question. You just talked about Trump. Do you think lower interest rates help or hurt the dollar?
the
This is the
generally
last thing I want
speaking,
to talk about, and then
yeah.
I gotta go.
So generally speaking, higher interest rates will make it so that people buy dollars and buy treasuries. So if you get higher yields, then people will
But you don't get
sell.
any yield from the dollar. You're losing money year after year. And yeah, treasuries, I understand that, but like buying the dollar, I don't see how that would bring them any profits if there's higher interest rates.
I'm sorry. Why wouldn't it bring them?
Because you're losing money. The dollar is inflation. It's you know
Well, you would make more money than you otherwise would have. So if interest rates go up, then if you sell your currency to buy dollars, or buy treasuries,
but the
then
dollar is losing value every single year. Why wouldn't you just buy treasuries or buy stocks instead of keeping your money in the dollar?
well, you're keeping whenever you're basically you're buying a claim on future dollars whenever you buy treasuries. So um, but yeah, I guess like like
Yeah, but treasuries are a guarantee from the government to pay you back your money. You can buy a treasury at 3.5%, 5%, whatever, whatever, and the government will pay you that money at a certain time. It's a government guarantee.
right, and the if interest rates go up, then more people will do that than otherwise. So
Yeah,
if interest rates
I understand that, but I'm saying why would someone keep why would they directly? Are you talking about like investing in treasuries? Or are you talking about people directly investing like in the like hoarding a bunch of U.S. dollars? Are you talking about like U.S. people or people in other countries?
well, both the dollar would rise due to um people, generally
With high
individuals and
inflation,
firms.
the dollar rises. That's what you're saying, basically.
I'm sorry, during high inflation?
Yeah.
No.
So why would they be investing in the dollar then? I don't understand.
If
Or
interest
not
rates
high
go up.
inflation, high interest rate. Sorry.
So higher interest rates will cause the dollar to will be a cause for the dollar to rise generally because you get more investors in the dollar.
I guess perhaps because under Biden there was high inflation rates like 10% and the dollar was uh, high. But
Well,
also
yeah. Well,
December of
don't
this year,
confuse
huh?
inflation. Don't confuse
No, I'm not
inflation
confusing it. I didn't mean to
with
say
interest rates.
inflation and interest rates.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no. When interest rates
But
went
I mean,
up,
it really does suck for Americans that are trying to get a house loan or a car loan and they're getting like 10, 12, 13, 14%.
yeah, I mean, well, that's I guess like there's the government is crowding out. You'd say crowding out the supply of loanable funds. So the interest rates are higher than they would be in a free market. There's trillions of
Why would
dollars a
I
year.
blame Trump when inflation was, interest rates were like this high under all of Biden's term?
Um, well,
I'm
uh,
saying to someone in the comments, not to you, but
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. No, I mean, in a free market, the supply of loanable funds would be much higher, and the interest rates would be likely much lower. But also, the Fed wouldn't
I mean,
be.
we have a mixed market of, loanable funds. So I think that's the best system to work. We have private funds and government funds, and
Well,
I
the
think
government
that's
gets its
why
funds from the private sector. The private sector is the
the
productive
government gets
force.
its funds from the people.
Yeah, government the government only takes. The government is zero sum. The private sector is positive sum. So the that basically yeah. Anyway, so yeah, but the tariffs are dumb. And I don't want to like take forever, but they're not a good idea. And then uh, yeah, the Intel stake isn't a good idea.
I mean, we
It's
already talked about this.
yeah. Just summing it up, the immigration control is not a good idea. I guess we talked about that for the longest,
Yeah,
but
we
yeah.
want open borders and also letting poor people have quality roads. Don't forget that you said that's also not a good idea.
Oh well, I just want factors of production to be allocated to where consumers are willing to do. So if they want very fancy roads, then that'll take away from other things. And if they're willing to do that, so be it. If not, then they'll get lower quality roads in favor of maybe higher quality food. But they're all trade offs in
They can't get high
economics.
quality anything in the world that you're talking about. How are they going to get high quality food? They're poor. They can't afford a $60 steak.
Yeah, I mean, they could, but it would just take it would take a huge portion of their income. So if they're willing to do that, then sure, they can get the steak, but is it worth it really? Probably not. So they'll probably economize and figure out what the correct balance is. But anyway, I don't want to like go on forever.
It's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening, man. Maybe we can do this another time.
Yeah.
Have a good one. It was nice
Uh,
having you. Thank you for your time.
Good talking
Peace
to you,
out.
bro. Appreciate you.
Good talking to you. Peace out. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know where you guys are coming from. What city, what state. Comment down below, but I'm going to hop off here in a minute. Double tap that screen though. Let's get to 70 likes before I hop off. How about that? 70 likes! 70 likes! Come on, guys. Okay. Thank you. All right, now I'll hop off, guys. I agree with you, Tom. I agree with you. That other guy was. Hey, UK, England, hell yeah. How do I join next time? Join the Discord. Join the Discord, link in the bio. $1 is almost $2 in Australia, so ours is more valuable. No, that's not how that works. But I don't think you understand that because you only make $7,000 a year. But that's a whole nother question, a whole nother debate. If our dollar is equivalent to 1.5 of yours, that means our dollar is more valuable. We're ending this, brother. We're ending this. Have a good night, guys. Have a good night. I'll probably be back maybe in an hour or two. If someone else wants to debate, they can. Join the Discord, link in the bio. Peace out, everybody. Peace out. Well, same difference. That's about 8,000 US. Peace out, guys. Have a great night. IFE. Have a great night, Lunchbox. Great night, everyone. Have a good night.